This is the flagship station of the world champion Boston Celtics. WBZ-FM and HD Boston 98.5, the Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots will hold their only true practice of the week today as they prepare for a Thursday evening matchup with the Jets at MetLife Stadium. They'll also be without top tackler and defensive captain Jawan Bentley. He was injured last weekend against Seattle and is now expected to miss the rest of the season with a torn pectoral muscle. The Patriots have also signed offensive lineman Michael Jordan to the 53-man roster from the practice squad. In other NFL news, Atlanta got a 7-yard touchdown pass from Kirk Cousins to Drake London with 34 seconds left. And Raheem Morris's team upset Philadelphia 22-21 last night.
He's a guy with authentic swagger. He was brought here because of his mental toughness. He was brought here because of his juice that he's able to bring to what we're able to do. He was brought here to create with these offensive players that we have, and I never lost confidence in that.
Both teams are now 1-1. The Patriots visit San Francisco a week from Sunday, and now on top of placing Christian McCaffrey on injured reserve last week. The 49ers announced yesterday Deebo Samuel strained a calf muscle last weekend, and he is out a couple of games. Carolina has benched former overall #1 draft pick and starting quarterback Bryce Young. Andy Dalton will start for the Panthers this Sunday in Las Vegas. Miami won't place Tua Tagovailoa on injured reserve despite his latest concussion. They did sign a quarterback yesterday, Tyler Huntley, off of Baltimore's practice squad, and the Red Sox had last night off. They open up a 3-game road series with Tampa Bay tonight. Sports Hub headlines are driven by the all-new electric Honda Prologue. Head to your local New England Honda dealer to learn more or shop online at newengland.hondadealers.com. I'm John Wallach at Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 6:30.
Listen to it, laugh at it, get mad at it, agree with it, argue about it. It is Boston Sports. Boston Sports. And it is all we do. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Fred, hello. Hello. Mm-hmm. Hello. Hello. Hello.
He's naked. He has a sword.
Super about with a football.
98.5. The Hub.
Bruins are back from the West Coast.
Cocaine and hookers. Yes. Na.
Is it okay to use this for the radio?
Yeah. Welcome to the show, you sweet bitch.
And Fred Toucher's a mouth-breathing jackass and a liar. I was at dinner with my wife and a friend. Fred Toucher is a nut job.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. We are Toucher and Hardy, Town Fair Tire Studios. You can always call us 617-779-0985. We are brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. And, of course, you can watch us on YouTube. You got to smash subscribe. Search 98.5 The Sports Hub on YouTube.
I didn't go on YouTube yesterday. Things were getting a little weird there, I think, on Friday or one day last week. And I gave myself the day off from the chat, but I'll log back in.
Why was it getting so weird?
It was a little on the negative side.
No.
And really toward each other, a few people on the chat. Things got a little unkind there.
But there seems to be a group of, set people, so you think they would self-moderate, right?
And they
like
try.
Riz
but
and all those guys.
Yeah, there are a couple of people that come in there, and they're just, they're there to stir things up. I think they're there that they get off on being disliked. You know what it's like.
Yeah, but I get paid. Oh. There's a difference.
Good morning.
There's a paycheck at the end of that.
Keep it cool.
Kind of softens the blow a little bit. You get insulted all day, but then you look at the wire transfer. You're like, oh,
I believe that's the.
Good.
I believe that's the
kittens.
The deal we've made.
Yeah.
Is that especially myself, is that you're going to have unkind things said about you, but
takes the edge off a little bit.
But this is the way I make money, and now it's too late in the game to shift course. No one And the sad thing about this job is that if everyone says nice things about you or doesn't say anything at all, you're in big trouble. So that's the best thing. You know what? Hardy mentioned it to me right before we went on the air, and I found it very interesting, so I'm going to talk about it here. Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. What'd you say about him?
Arrested.
No, but you said you
Oh, I said, that's Sean Combs. He nasty.
And I said, what? Yeah, he's faced a parade of sexual assault lawsuits and federal trafficking probe this year, has been arrested. The producer's attorney tells CNN. Combs, who voluntarily went to New York City, he's been there this week. He's been out to eat, which I find interesting. But he's been in New York City with the plans, I guess, of getting arrested, like he knew this was happening. But he was arrested by Homeland Security, so that's not good. The common belief is that if the federal government comes after you, they are pretty much assured. They believe it's open and shut. That the federal charges and like something. Remember when he got raided and it was by like Homeland Security? Yeah, it was Homeland Security.
Yeah.
That went in and everyone said, all the talking heads and pundits said, or maybe pundits the wrong term, but they said that's bad. This is really bad because they don't go and do these things unless they have something. Like there's lots of instances, and we've seen it, where the police will come and they'll raid someone's place and they'll take computers, like that Birdman guy, that poor Birdman guy, that every time I see him now, I think he's a child molester, but he's not a child molester at all. He was falsely accused of being a pedophile. Not even, it was watching like child porn or something. And then it came out like his house is raided because of child porn, da-da-da-da-da. And then it turns out that none of it is true. They raided his stuff, they took it, and then they looked at it, and there was nothing on there, and so he's not in trouble. But the thing is that you remember the headline about the bad stuff, but you don't remember the little story in the bottom corner of the right-hand page of the 16th thing you click that says he's innocent, as a matter of fact. But apparently the federal thing is a lot more serious. CNN reported in May that federal investigators were preparing to bring accusers of Combs to federal grand jury for testimony. He says it is, let's see here. Following the home raids, law enforcement, federal probe stems from many of the sexual assault allegations made in several civil lawsuits. The investigation is much larger, focusing on sex trafficking, money laundering, and illegal drugs. So it sounds like Sean Diddy Combs is in deep yogurt, as they say.
So one of the lawsuits accused him of sexual assault, sexual harassment, and grooming. They claim to have video and audio recording of Combs and his staff engaging in serious illegal activity, claiming that Combs forced him to procure and interact with sex workers, threatened him, and served alcoholic beverages laced with drugs to house party guests.
And I wonder if any other famous people's names are going to come up in this. I wonder if people are concerned.
I would imagine so.
Someone get Cat Williams on the phone. I'm telling you, Cat Williams, people made fun of him. He was on Club Shay Shay, and he was saying a bunch of stuff. People made fun of him. And then a lot of silence around it.
I was in the car with Marcy, and Cat Williams came on one of the comedy channels. I said, "Oh, I think he's really funny." She's like, "I don't think he's that funny." And I'm talking about, I'm like, "Oh no, he's really good." They're bringing him in for like, he was on I think like NBC's golf coverage, maybe like some of their online stuff. He loves golf.
Really?
So they had him out there walking the course and talking about the players and stuff like. Yeah, and it was funny. And I said, no, let's just listen to, like 7-8 minutes of stand-up here. And it was not funny. There was not a laugh to be had. I'm like, bad example. You got to listen to Cat Williams for a while, and the funny will come out.
Okay. Was it the bit about how dangerously large his unit was?
No, I can't tell you what the bit was. It was one of his more like political things where, there wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? A joke anywhere in it. He just spoke for like 7 or 8 minutes about the state of things. And okay, I can see why, you wouldn't find yourself slapping your knee and busting a rib at that particular bit, but he's got some really funny stuff. And he's been on this Sean Combs thing for how long? How many years, Fred?
A lot of years, and he's on Kevin Hart. He's on a lot of stuff. He's all over the place. He's got a lot to say. He has a whole thing about how dangerously large his manhood is, and the repercussions of its length. It's a very self-deprecating bit in no way, shape, or form.
Okay.
Yes. I told you about Sean, that Cat Williams very unpopular with a lot of comedians because at the Comedy Store, which is one of the great comedy clubs of all time, it's in Los Angeles, California. It brought us Sam Kinison. It brought us Jim Carrey. It brought us Untold, even Joe Rogan, Mark Maron. It's brought us so many people. David Letterman, Jay Leno. And the got very dark, I guess, in the 90s. Like, it got, like, kind of depressing and, like, drug-addled. And so you had to pass. Pauly Shore's mom, Mitzi, used to be the one that would pass you.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning that you would perform, and, like, they have this drawing, and you can get on for open mic nights. If you do a couple of them, Mitzi likes your show, she'll pass you, and then you can start performing at the club during real times, like when it's not amateurs. And so you're basically at that point being paid, so you're a professional comedian. So people would be all like lined up. You had have your spots, and people would come into the club, comedians, and they go, all right, you have like a 11:30 p.m. slot. They get in, 9:30, hang out, talk to the other comics and stuff. And what would happen is if a famous comic comes in, Mitzi would just go, all right, this guy's going on. He's going to work on some stuff. Just let him go up. So a lot of guys, more famous comics, would go in, and they still do, and work on material. They're not necessarily concerned about the laughs they're getting. They're kind of going through and working on stuff, preparing for a bigger event or a tour. And I guess Cat Williams would come in and just take the stage over for like legit 3 hours of just like sitting up there rambling.
Right.
And the big problem was not even so much the time he was taking up. It was that he wasn't doing anything.
Right,
like he wasn't even trying out material. Like he was just up there rambling.
Other people who had gotten their shot, and Mitzi had passed him, had 8-10 minutes maybe of like solid stuff they had worked on, and you get bumped for a guy to just go up there and hang out.
Yeah, there's a documentary about the Comedy Store. It's on one of the streaming services. That's one of the big ones. It's either Netflix or Hulu.
I watched it, yeah.
Yeah, the guy from Birmingham, Michigan, is the guy who made it.
Oh.
A big comedian at the Comedy Store. Yep. And used to work on that place out of Royal Oak, Michigan, where Tim Allen came out, if you recall that. And, they talk about all that stuff and about the Cat Williams and how dark it was and all these things. So go check that out.
It's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu.
Okay.
It's a 5-part series, I believe, on all of that. Yes, indeed. And they had a place located right behind the club because it's on Sunset Strip, so it's in this prime location. And that's where they used to do all the cocaine. Go ahead.
We got a show to watch together. I don't know how many shows you watch. Wallach, you sit down and watch all the Hallmark movies with your wife.
And he also watches the new Matlock. Is your house excited about that with Kathy Bates?
There's a new Matlock?
There's a new Matlock. Kathy Bates taking over.
Did you watch football on Sunday?
What is who played the original Matlock, Fred? And think about it before
Andy
you
Griffin.
Griffith.
I thought it was because I was going to say Griffith. It's
Griffith.
Say it again.
Andy Griffith.
Play the original Matlock.
Yes.
It's being rebooted with Kathy Bates.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Who I find, Fred, sometimes I can see her reciting her lines as though she were reading them off of cue cards. I know she's a wonderful actress, or I believe as in the preferred nomenclature, just an actor. There's no need to differentiate with gender, Wallach.
Right.
We're all very woke, you understand.
I understand, yes.
But
I find it offensive.
I sometimes don't get it with Kathy Bates. Like on The Office, I think she's great. And then there are other movies. Did you watch that Primary Colors movie, which is essentially the Bill Clinton campaign story?
No.
John Travolta playing it. In that movie, I swear to God, there's cue cards in front of her. Her delivery is like so stilted and unnatural sometimes. And I understand she knows what she's doing, and it's a choice. I just don't understand the choice. So I don't want her to screw up, a top 10 television program of all time like Matlock with a lesser reboot. It's not going to be as good as the original, you understand? Of
course not.
But it's got a chance to at least be respectful of the original.
Hardy, you might be happy to hear that she has announced this will be her last acting gig. She's retiring after this run on this show. So you don't have to worry about the stilted delivery after that.
Does anyone else know what I'm talking about? No? I'm all alone with this?
No. I'm not that all in on Kathy Bates. I liked when she was naked in that movie.
About Schmidt. Which Robert Duvall did not like. He called it about shtick. He thought it was too madcap and not a serious film.
Well, it's not about New Girl, so I have no time for it. It's about Schmidt. Hello, New Girl fans. All right, go ahead. What are we watching? What's the show?
Oh, The Old Man with Jeff Bridges.
Oh.
So I went back, and it's been so long since season 1 was on. I'm like, I'll rewatch season 1 with you, which I believe is also on the Hulu. Holy crap with the commercials on Hulu. Holy crap with the commercials.
Why don't you get the non-commercial one?
I thought we had it. And
Yeah.
if not, I will invest in it just to watch. We watched like the first 2 episodes of season 1 of The Old Man. It's really good.
Yeah, I think it Hulu's $9 with commercials and like $15 without.
Oh.
I think it's worth the investment.
Yeah.
It's not a huge all-in purchase.
Yeah.
But you can't get Love Island on it. So I will tell you that. That is only on Peacock. An hour and a half per episode, 33 episodes. They probably filmed it over a week. There's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot to take in there. All right, Hardy, what's coming up? You tell me.
I watched Monday Night Football last night after I proclaimed to the world and anyone else who wanted to know, there's no way I'm standing up for that game. Had to watch the end of that one last night. So we'll get to the Monday Night Football, bunch of injuries around the NFL, and a few other things you need to know about.
I think that you have a little something called football fever.
What's the cure, huh?
Not sleep. Yeah, John liked that.
I did. I
John
thought that
liked
was
that.
really, really funny.
That's why he'll be watching Matlock with the people this fall season.
I like Wallach's hoodie today.
You do? Okay.
For once.
All right.
But the hat, man.
What's wrong with the hat?
Again, it's like it's a different color navy. It's a different team. It's a different logo. It's almost like you don't care.
Correct.
What is the
You
hat
found
today?
me out again.
What is the W?
I believe it's the Worcester Red Sox.
You believe or you know?
I'm not positive, to be honest with you. I just pulled it out of the closet.
What if it's some Nazi situation?
Then I'd be in a large amount of trouble, although I don't know
What if
how
the W stands
would...
for white supremacist?
Yeah,
there you go.
right.
That's how the W would work.
You're right.
All right.
I hadn't thought of that.
Well, wear that at your own risk. Maybe, do some research. Or maybe it's a gang hat. And it's one of those things that when you leave the building, someone's going to think you're on their turf and give you a little...
Wallach does have
bullet
that
sandwich.
MS-13 look about him.
Yeah. He does a lot of stuff. He'll flick his lights to turn on your high beams or something, turn off your high beams. And if you do it, then he'll come and shoot you.
He'll follow you home. Yeah, that's a danger.
All right. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Toucher and Hook.
generally pleased with what you've seen so far with the product. And Gerard Mayo, in some respect, exceeding what I thought. He's got him ready to go. So, you've got to win that ball game. We all figure there are going to be weeks this year where they're not going to win. They're not going to have a chance. You've got to close that ball game. That was a gag. And that's why Jacoby Brissett's a losing quarterback.
Felger and Mazz, weekdays at 2 on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
It's called rising and grinding.
Start your
Got
day.
your finger on the pulse, Fred.
Begin your
Seldom
day
right and never wrong.
right here. Is that Toucher or is that Hardy?
I know, looks like a poodle. It's an effing poodle, dumbass.
The Sports Hub.
Did you catch a game last night?
Hey, we are Toucher and Hardy. Hardy, what happened last evening?
Monday Night Football. The Atlanta Falcons suffered a loss to the Steelers in Week 1. They were in Philadelphia to take on the Eagles, who beat the Packers in Week 1. So, Eagles looking to move to 2-0. Falcons looking to get back to 500 on the season. And things weren't looking good for them late in this one. The Eagles with a 3-point lead. They had the ball. They were on the Atlanta 10-yard line. All they needed to do was pick up a 3rd and 3, and this should be no problem whatsoever, right?
3rd down and 3. Barkley in the backfield.
Don't touch it.
Hurts. Barkley dropped it. Wow. And that obviously stops the clock.
So that is maybe the bigger infraction there, the fact that they don't pick up the first down on the 10-yard line, and they would have been inside the 7 probably at that point.
Would have been a first down. You would have kept the clock running.
And then people are slamming them for what they did and for not running the ball there and keeping the clock going because they had ultimately kicked the field goal and then Atlanta came back. But the thing is this, is that
Spoiler
it worked.
alert.
Yeah, sorry, I'm blowing it off for everyone. But the problem is this, is that the play worked. And so I guess the play was designed for who's the quarterback?
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts to roll out, and if it's there, if the running back's open, toss the ball. It's like a 2-yard pass, and if he's not, just go down and then run the clock. He was open. The play worked. There's not any guesswork to it. He just flipped the ball, and it's in the kid's hands. How can you blame the coach for that? And
who's playing? I didn't hear.
No, it was right after the game. Aikman was talking about it. He didn't bury the coach or anything. Right after the game, he had to talk about it in the press conference. There was a lot of talk about it. It's the big conversation about the game. But the thing is also this, is that you kick the field goal, you up by 6, and you just got to stop them. Now your defense has to stop them, and you couldn't do that. You got to keep them from scoring a touchdown in what, like a minute? Go ahead and do it. That's not overly difficult. So everyone's going to get on him, and probably in Philadelphia today there'll be a lot of pissed off fans. But the play worked, and B, they had to go the length of the field and get a touchdown, and they didn't. And you allowed it. Big chunk plays.
A minute 39. Atlanta had the ball at their own 30.
And they didn't have any timeouts, I don't think.
I think you're right. I'm not positive.
No, I believe they didn't have any timeouts.
Atlanta didn't have any timeouts, and if you're Philadelphia and you were looking maybe at somehow trying to manage timeouts toward the end of that game, they had screwed that up. They had to call one coming out of the 2-minute warning.
I know.
You come out of the 2-minute warning, and then the whole sideline is about to stroke out. What's going on? How do you guys not have the play?
But
what is going on here? And neither here nor there. Saquon Barkley had the ball in his hands. He dropped it, as you said. Atlanta gets the ball back, and it took him 5 plays to get down the field.
Takes the snap. Kirk looks, sails it. Drake there. Caught. Touchdown, Atlanta. Drake London for the first time in 14 games. He stands in the end zone, and the Falcons had tied the game with 34 seconds.
So here's the other thing. After that, there was a minor celebration in the end zone, which pushed the extra point try back. It looked like he was kicking from midfield. I'm like, holy crap, that's a real penalty for a celebration?
Yes.
Extra point was good, though, so 22-21. Enough time, 39 seconds, I think they ended. I mean, they went down the field in a minute. There was no time taken off the clock by Atlanta to score that touchdown. So there was a chance for Jalen Hurts to go out there, drive down, maybe not get it into field goal range. They were probably going to have to go for the touchdown, that just to think that they would be able to get chunk plays and get everybody up to the line and try and kick a field goal. But
3 receivers and Barkley in the backfield. Atlanta going to bring 4 this time. Try to get there. Hurts is hit as he throws. Bates
Pick it off,
tracking. Jesse Bates interception. With 32 seconds left, Jesse Bates comes up with the interception, and Atlanta, in the thick of the night, has stolen one from the Philadelphia Eagles.
I lived in Atlanta for 8 years, and I couldn't tell you what radio station the Falcons broadcasts are on or who does the broadcast. It was I know where the UGA broadcasts were, and
Sure.
that Munson was the guy. He's very famous.
That guy was there for how long, Munson? He was there forever.
2 years,
right?
no. He was there for, like decades.
92.9 The Game.
Yeah, that's the Odyssey channel with our friend Mike Bell. Yep. So there you go. They have that property.
Yeah.
So apparently, Belichick, by the way, I listened to it and it's not worth playing, but critical of the Atlanta Falcons. Ben Volen retweeted something from Awful Announcing, which is, will be responsible for my early demise. Shall that happen? And they included Dan Lifshat's tweet, so you know it's legit.
How about that?
So there's a site that gets paid to cover broadcasting, and they've put up a Dan Lifshat's tweet as part of their. They put up 3 tweets. One is from Doug Kyde, our good friend from the Herald. Another one is by the name of someone named George Balbrowski. And the other one is by a man by the name of Dan Lifshatz.
What does Dan have to say?
He says, Bill's personal shots are quite good. And that needed to be put up there. They're like, this has been seconded by Dan Lifshatz. And so if I'm sitting there in Bozeman, Montana, I'm like, all right. I didn't want to believe this story, but now I see Lifshatz did it too.
Or you believe in it and you're looking for a little confirmation bias, and you're seeking things out. You're like, oh, good. I have somebody who knows what they're talking about, who agrees with me.
Yeah, Danny Lifshatz.
Yeah, good.
He doesn't have a blue check mark. Doug Kyde has a blue check mark, not Danny Lifshatz. So what are you going to do? By the way, another guy from the Herald, Andrew Callahan, in today at 8 for an hour.
Nice.
Thank you.
Let's hear what Nick Sirianni had to say after the game.
Again, in that scenario, I was thinking they might not have any timeouts there, but obviously they did with the incomplete pass. You know, that would have came down to maybe a minute, and so we wanted to go up 6 points. It didn't work. The decision to pass it there, again, like I said, you know, where they were junking it up inside, with it being 4th and 3 to go for it, I thought with them not having any timeouts, I wanted them to be down a touchdown and see if they could drive the field, and they did. Hats off to them.
And there you go.
Who are the good teams in the NFL at this point?
Oh, you're saying that if you've lost, that you're not a good team?
No, I'm saying Philadelphia did not look good last night.
They looked all right, and they were missing A.J. Brown.
San Francisco did not look good at all. Even without A.J. Brown, they still should have beaten that team on their own home field.
No, they should have won that game. But again, if you look at the 2-0 teams, I mean, Buffalo is okay. Pittsburgh's probably not that good. The Texans are all right. The Chiefs are obviously good. But then if you go to the NFC, I mean, are the Vikings the best team in the NFC? Do you believe in New Orleans and Tampa Bay and Seattle?
Right now, New Orleans is the best team because they've blown out both teams they faced so far. They scored 40 each time.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, are you all in on the New Orleans this year?
No.
Yeah, so
no, I mean, all I'm saying is you look around the NFL, and you figure Kansas City is that team because they were that team the last 2 years, but ultimately it's just a bunch of other squads. You throw them in a hat. No one's sure about anything.
I think it's more that the beginning of the season is kind of not what it used to be. That the first, with everything with training camp and everything like that, and the starters not playing in the preseason games, that you're not getting a true litmus of the teams the first couple weeks of the season.
You may be right. I'm just very surprised that Philadelphia coughed that one up last night. I'm very surprised San Francisco lost last weekend. And it just seems to me it's more uneven than usual. The way these teams have looked has been a little surprising to me, the so-called power teams.
I'm with Wallach. You should be able to name, after 2 weeks, 4 teams that you think are, legitimately good, like across the board, we'd agree on them. I'll give you the Chiefs. I'll have a conversation about everybody else, including New Orleans, Buffalo. I mean, just looking at the 2-0 teams.
But you know who the good teams are. Just because they've lost the game, no one was going to go undefeated this season. I mean, the good teams, just because they've lost the game doesn't mean they're not. It doesn't mean anything. They just lost one of the first 2 games. There's too much analysis of the NFL week to week. It's too much. I mean, everyone. How many people said Kirk Cousins sucks? After week 1. Oh, no, he's broken. Oh, no, he can't play. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's such a chorus of voices that's so large that everyone's trying to make a definitive statement every week.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. I mean,
I think that we're in a position where we don't have to do that because we're not in a position where we have to have takes all the time. You know, because we bring.
Wait a minute.
I thought we were.
Yeah, but
that's the business we were in.
Well, my take is that you're wrong, and the thing is that no, there's the business. This is not. How long have you been on this show, Wallach?
Many years.
I put it this
15 glorious years.
Yeah,
Fred.
you don't. I mean,
put it this way, Fred.
This isn't a debate show. Go ahead.
I want to believe the Lions are a good team.
Yeah, they are.
I did not. They didn't blow me away with how they beat the Rams, and they didn't look great against the Buccaneers. So while they are better than average right now, I don't count them in the same breath as the Kansas City Chiefs are, through 2 weeks, the best team in the league.
Well, that's
and the
not,
rest of it
but,
is a conversation.
But the Chiefs should have lost to a team that got blown out that got beat by the Patriots the week before. So the Chiefs have narrowly won the 2 games that they've won. Just because they've squeaked by in 2 games doesn't mean they're better than the Lions.
But they've got something that leads me to believe that once again,
that they've won 2 championships in a row.
They're not going to lose those close games where they have a chance of winning. And we've seen virtually all but 3 other teams in the league lose a close game that they have a chance of winning because they fall apart at the end. The Chiefs don't. I mean, that's the hallmark of a good team.
Yes, and they've won the last 2 championships, so it's no mystery that they're good. I'm just telling you that I wouldn't overreact to anything. And I bet you one of these 0-2 teams ends up making the playoffs.
All right, you can be the one who doesn't overreact, and Wallach and I will overreact.
We're overreacting.
That's your right as a human.
Yeah.
But I got news for you. I wouldn't, write Baltimore off as being a failure this season because they're 0-2. Like that, there's no way Baltimore's making the playoffs. In fact, I bet you the odds of them making the playoffs are not in the gamblers' favor just because they're at 0-2. I mean, the Athletic does some computer simulation that's got them like at an 80% chance of making the playoffs, even after being 0-2.
Yeah, Ravens, I'm looking at the schedule here. At Dallas, Buffalo, Cincinnati, the next 3 after losing their first 2.
Yeah, and then if they win 2 of those, everyone's going to be wetting themselves about how good they are. And they'll be 2-3. And, would you want to play Baltimore right now? Would you want to play Baltimore right now? Or would you want to play, pick another 2-0 team? Would you want to play Baltimore or Minnesota?
I'd rather play Minnesota.
Would you want to play Baltimore or Tampa Bay?
Tampa.
Would you want to play Baltimore or Seattle?
Oh, definitely Baltimore. See, that Seattle team's not good. Not at all. That Seattle team, Patriots should have beaten that team.
No, you wouldn't want to. So you would say Seattle.
Yes,
because you want to play Seattle.
I would not want to.
So
play
that's the
Baltimore.
difference. So you just named 3 2-0 teams that you would rather play than Baltimore.
My only point bringing this up is there are teams that we considered good that should just, regardless of what time of year it is, the personnel should be able to win games for them.
Yeah.
I mean, even Houston, who was a playoff team last year, is supposed to be the next team up. They've really struggled these first 2 games.
Right. But they're 2-0. And
they won both games, but both games are by 1 score. They should have blown Chicago's doors off and didn't, and they barely survived Indianapolis.
Yeah, and I think that people are kind of just hoping the Texans because of Stroud and that they're young. That's more hoping than anything
story,
else.
Yes.
Yes, I really believe that. I mean, that's why they're on Sunday Night Football against a bad Chicago team. And by the way, everyone wanted Chicago to win. There are people picking Chicago to win the North. You didn't?
No.
Oh, a ton of people, John, picked them to make the playoffs. Oh, I heard more breakdowns of the Lions season of going, oh no, this is Chicago's going to be a contender this year. Oh yeah, there's this like willing of these storylines to happen that goes on. And then coaches, they want every coach fired, and then they end up winning 2 in a row. Now they don't want them fired anymore. It grates on me. Not what you guys are saying necessarily, but just the course. Chris Canty from ESPN said, "I'm selling my Burrow stock. I'm selling my Burrow stock." Like if Cincinnati was like, "We're trading Burrow," there would be 28 teams going, "What do you want? We'll give you anything."
ESPN's a little different because they have hours and hours and hours each day that need to be filled. So they bring in a squadron of people, not Stephen A. Smith, that come in and just say stuff for hours and hours and hours. And ultimately, if you're Chris Canty and you have to fill up 3 hours, you're going to wind up saying a lot of crap that makes no sense.
Yeah, and that's the danger of being take-driven. And here's the thing, is that if anyone kept a scorecard of everything those guys say and then how often they were right and how often they were wrong, you'd be like, why are they on television?
Exactly.
Why are they an expert?
But that has more to do with the programming ESPN is forcing upon people than anything else.
That's the thing, is that if you're required to have it's like 100 opinions about a game every day,
you wind up like Chris Canty.
And there's 150 voices that day all giving opinions.
Right. I'm selling my Joe Burrow stock after 1 week. That's what you wind up saying because these other 3 people in the room have different takes than that.
And I remember Chris Canty because I'm like, this guy's an idiot. He's a fool. Like, he's just saying it for no reason. Like, Belichick, I was listening to the Fan because I like the Jets, and they were like, people are like, I want Maye to call Belichick right now. Do you? Is that what you want, dumbass? You want Bill Belichick to coach a team with no quarterback and no immediate future? You want them to bring in Bill Belichick at 73, 74 years old to be the new coach of the Giants for what end? When are you going to get good? So what? So you win 7 games instead of 5?
That's right. And Bill's not going. Edelman was the first one to bring that up.
Yeah, and it's idiotic.
I thought it was idiotic when he said it too.
If I was a Giants fan, I'd sell my season tickets if they hired Belichick. All right. Anyway,
Ravens odds to make the playoffs right now -150.
Yeah.
Plus 195 to win the division, and it goes up from there.
Yeah.
For the Bears, playoff odds plus 140, about the same, plus 700 to win the division.
There you go. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. Here are the headlines.
Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots visit the Jets this Thursday night. They'll be without linebacker Jawan Bentley, who reportedly tore a pectoral muscle in a loss to Seattle last weekend. He's expected to miss the rest of the season. The team will practice later today. They have signed offensive lineman Michael Jordan to the 53-man roster from the practice squad. As we were just talking about, Atlanta scored a big upset in Philadelphia last night, 22-21. Deebo Samuel out for the next couple of weeks for San Francisco with a calf strain. That means that both he and Christian McCaffrey will miss the game against the Patriots a week from Sunday. Carolina has bench starting quarterback Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton, and the Red Sox had last night off. They visit Tampa Bay tonight. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by East Coast Metal Roofing, the official roofing partner of the Boston Celtics. Mention 98.5 The Sports Hub and get 10% off your new roof. Visit eastcoastmetalroofing.com. I'm John Wallach on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 7 o'clock.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub. this and more. Get it where you get your apps or at 985sportshub.com. We're back with Toucher and Hardy on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
So there's this, I'm not a fan of them, but there's this, I've been reading this book, not the Pearl Jam, but Velvet Underground, and there's this documentary on Apple Plus. I don't suggest watching it. But the Velvet Underground go out to San Francisco. You know, it's Lou Reed and John Cale, like that band, Sweet Jane and what have you. Sweet Jane might have been Lou Reed. So anyway, I think it was Lou Reed. So they go out to San Francisco and they're like talking about how much they hate hippies. And
That's
they
Velvet
said,
Underground.
Velvet Under white people music, and that's a pretty good, I think, synopsis. A one line synopsis. People afraid of conflict.
Always hate hippies. They'll sell you bad drugs. Fat Mike.
That's right.
That's right.
Yes, indeed.
All right, there's change in Carolina, boys. Bryce Young out, Andy Dalton in.
It's my decision. This is our football team. This is trying to win on a weekly basis. While it's my decision, I gather information from the people that are critical. This is something that I felt like gives us our chance to take a step forward in our play style.
Quick, who's the coach of the Carolina Panthers?
Dave Canales.
Very good, Wallach.
Thank you.
What's his background?
He was a retail manager for many years and had middle management written all over him.
Yeah.
But he made the switch over to football, and now he's flexing his muscles with a quarterback change going into week 3.
You know, he worked at Dunkin' for like 8 years, and now he's a franchisee. He's one of those rags to riches stories.
Now, Canales did not say whether or not David Tepper had a say in the decision, but he said the GM and the executive vice president of the team were part of the decision. Ultimately, though, it's his decision. So, yes, David Tepper had a say in the decision.
So Bryce Young is never going to play for Carolina short of an injury again.
He's done. You don't
2-16 as a starter.
Yeah. You don't make this move unless you're going to move on from him at the end of the year.
And so now the talk is Miami being a possible landing spot for him. And from what I heard, the analysts say that the only one they could figure was Miami because no one else would want him. And the only team that might is Miami, and they could stash him and try to, like, get his confidence back.
Mike McDonald is great at bringing quarterbacks back who have lost confidence.
And after last weekend, I don't doubt that he could. Listen, the kid was great at Alabama, and you see, again, Mayfield, Geno Smith, and Sam Darnold, what they've turned into. And I know, Fred, you just said 2 games in. Yeah, I know. But regardless, Mayfield was considered dead. Former first overall pick was considered dead. He took Tampa Bay to the playoffs. They almost beat Detroit. They beat Detroit in Detroit yesterday. So he's at least a starting quarterback in the NFL. That cannot be debated. Where he ranks among starting back, but he deserves to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Sam Darnold always had the talent. Now he has a good offensive coach and some weapons around him, and he's 2-0. Listen, is that going to pan out? I don't know. And Geno Smith's way better than I ever thought he was going to be.
I can't believe he's still as good as he is. And it seems like he's been in the league for 15 years. I know it's just we know him so well at this point. But yeah, it's one of those things where you have to show something. Even you can be bad and you can lose games, but you got to show somebody something, especially with the investment that they made in Bryce Young. To remind everybody, it was 2 first-round picks in 23 and 24. They moved up 8 spots to get him. Carolina did.
Yep.
2 first-round picks in last year and this year. DJ Moore and a 2025 second-round pick to go from 9th to 1st in the draft last year. So it's too much of an investment, and they haven't shown him enough to say, okay, we're just going to keep riding this train to see what talent is there. There's not enough for what they put into it.
It's not the same coach, and I don't believe it's the same GM, so they probably don't even care. Go ahead.
The stat I saw that was telling yesterday is that Bryce Young completed 18 passes for 84 yards, and statistically speaking, he was the least pressured quarterback in the National Football League last weekend.
Yeah, his confidence is completely shot. If I'm Carolina, I would be like, okay, just do it. This is a Zach Wilson. This is, someone who's just not going to come back for you.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you're another team and you get him, don't be surprised if in 4 years, 3 years, because he's in 3 years he'll be like 25, 26. Don't be surprised, probably 25. Don't be surprised if Bryce Young, starts a season at quarterback for someone isn't bad, because like seasoning, getting older, maturing, learning the speed of the game. I mean, these guys have the talent to do it. It's just they get drafted into horrible situations like Carolina or horrible situations like the Jets. Like Sam Darnold, everyone who covered that team, that Jets team, was like, Sam Darnold's really good. He's just in a miserable situation. And then, he moved around and bopped around. Like, he always had the size and talent to do it. He just got drafted into a horrible organization. Bryce Young got drafted into a horrible organization. Mayfield got drafted into a horrible organization. Geno Smith got drafted into a horrible organization. I'd always keep my eye out on those guys. Like the high picks that get drafted into bad spots, and maybe not so. They're not as bad as they looked.
And you're so right about the coach and GM thing, Fred, because the insistence on hanging on to even second and third round picks, because we spent it's third rounder on this guy. We got to give him a shot. He's got to stick around for 3 years. After a couple of years on some of these players, and the Patriots and the other teams have done it for years, they won't move on from a guy, whether it's a receiver or a defensive back or a linebacker who just doesn't seem to have a knack for the pro game. They won't cut bait if they're a middle to high draft pick, just because they feel it reflects so poorly on them. And if there's anything there, then you've got them locked up. Sometimes you just know there's nothing there. I don't know if that's the case with Bryce Young, and they're not saying, of course, right now whether or not this is a benching for the season or for any length of time. But for now, it'll be Andy Dalton, your starting quarterback here in Carolina.
You can't make this move and put him back short of an injury. Like,
no.
If Andy Dalton stays healthy, he can never play quarterback again.
The worst part about this is if Andy Dalton, who is not horrible, if Andy Dalton comes in and actually starts to win a few games, it might cost them the quarterback that they desperately need to replace this kid.
Yep.
That's the other part of it. This guy Tepper, who, Fred, I think you had you went off on.
Oh, he's awful. He's really
the guy is a lunatic.
I throw that term around a lot, but he's an awful guy.
The guy is documented can be a lunatic at times. If you pick a quarterback, Quinn Ewers, Shedeur Sanders, whatever, there's no guarantee that this doesn't happen again in 2 years. Tepper, since he took over, I remember reading about this, Tepper wanted a quarterback bad. He wanted to make a big move for a quarterback bad, so he's like that Phoenix Suns owner. All right, we'll trade all of these draft picks to move up to number one, and I don't want Stroud, draft the kid from Alabama. And now having made a mistake, he's like, get rid of him. I don't want him anymore, and they're going to draft another quarterback into this mess.
I'll be interested to see if Shedeur Sanders goes in the first round based on his play and his comments after games. Go ahead.
Very briefly, video emerging yesterday of Celtics star Derek White getting into a fight at the Colorado State game.
Loose definition of a fight.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
There was a fight going on.
He got hit on the edges of a fight.
Yeah, he was like being half-assedly held back.
Yeah, he wanted no part of that. He wanted to talk to the guy, but he wasn't into throwing punches. That wasn't what he was doing.
The Derek White fight wasn't very much. Listen, we have to break. We'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy. Patriots. Wow. And you'll hear it all right here.
Yes.
Your home of the pass. 98.5, the Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Sports Hub headlines.
The Patriots will practice today, travel to New York tomorrow, and visit the Jets on Thursday night. One of the team's captains, Jawan Bentley, reportedly tore a pectoral muscle in a loss to Seattle last weekend. He's expected to miss the rest of the season. Also, the Patriots have signed their current starting left guard, Michael Jordan, to the 53-man roster off the practice squad. Last night, week 2 of the NFL season ended with a big upset in Philadelphia. The Eagles lost to Atlanta 22-21. Kirk Cousins threw a 7-yard touchdown pass to Drake London with a little over 30 seconds left for the win, but that only happened after Jalen Hurts saw Saquon Barkley drop a key pass a minute earlier that left the door open for the Falcons' final drive.
I don't want to add any extra wood to it. We just didn't make the play in that moment, and I trust him in every moment. He's a hell of a player. He gave us a big spark in those moments, and it just wasn't for us tonight.
Both teams are 1-1. The Patriots will be in San Francisco a week from Sunday, and the 49ers are going to be without 2 of their top weapons for the game. Christian McCaffrey already out after being placed on injured reserve, and Deebo Samuel apparently has a calf muscle strain. He's out at least a couple of weeks. Carolina visits Las Vegas this Sunday. Yesterday, they benched starting quarterback Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton. Miami signed quarterback Tyler Huntley off the Baltimore Ravens practice squad, and the Red Sox had last night off. They have a dozen games left in their season. They visit Tampa Bay tonight. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Rapid Flow Sewer and Drain Cleaning. A tree root may be damaging your sewer lines, or do what Beetle did and get the permanent fix before winter. 800-286-FLOW or rapidflowinc.com. With Rapid Flow, one call solves it all. I'm John Wallach of Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 7:30.
This is Jaylen Brown.
Jaylen Brown turns the corner. Finger roll is up and good. Scoring the foul.
Listen to home of the Boston Celtics, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Dutcher and Hardy, the reviews are in.
I got to stay on talk for after you give me about 5 minutes of my time.
Hear what he said. Now more of on the Sports Hub.
This is my decision. This is our football team. This is trying to win on a weekly basis. While it's my decision, I gather information from the people that are critical.
This is not the right clip.
Like
we were going to sound professional and come back with the right clip,
play style.
But we didn't come back with the right clip. That's on Hardy. That's Hardy's fault.
I've heard that he's not happy. Let me go take I've heard from one person that he's not
all
happy.
Right, let's not even try to do it. Let's.
Well, you could just talk all over it then. We could have done it.
I wasn't talking.
Gap.
It was music, and it was the levels were off. So
That's a mess.
It's just a mess. It was supposed to sound professional. Don't put this on me, Hardy. My God, gaslighting is what it is.
Yeah, it does have a touch of that.
That's exactly the definition of gaslighting.
Yeah.
You do something, you make a mistake, and then you start doing something and it doesn't work, so you start saying it's the other person's fault. That's gaslighting.
We could have heard the sound is all I was saying.
Well, we will hear the sound. Let's. As a matter of fact, we could hear the sound right now as we are Toucher and Hardy, and we are brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. You can watch us on YouTube. Please do. Search 98.5 The Sports Hub. What were you going to play, Hardy? Let's hear it.
I've heard that he's not happy. I'm just going to tell you flat out. I've heard from an informed person that he's not happy that the team is being sold because he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it, that this is coming from, you're a part of a family, and if your personal stake is less than 2%, as Shaughnessy wrote, that means sometimes decisions are made that are above your pay grade.
Yeah, that is, of course, the great Michael Holley talking about Wyc Grousbeck. The New York Post reporting that Wyc's dad, Irving, has said, you are paying way too much money. The team is set to lose tens of millions of dollars. You're out of your mind. You're a lunatic with these things. And is saying, now you have to sell the team, which we've talked about this before, but, now it's they're sourced and everything else that this is indeed the reason why Wyc Grousbeck has to sell it. And I can't think of where no one did anything wrong, like no one got arrested, there was no Orchids of Asia thing. I can't think of anything, and this is more embarrassing than Orchids of Asia. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, and I thought about it yesterday, more embarrassing that I've ever heard for a grown man. Like, short of like a crime. Like, would you rather like fall down walking up the stairs at an award show in front of like 2 million people, or have your dad make you sell the team that you claim to have owned like 3 days after you were holding up the Larry O'Brien trophy? What would you prefer? I would much prefer falling down, because everyone is falling down. But every picture they show of Wyc, he's holding the trophy, and he's got a big old smile on his face. And look at what my team did. Look at my team. I'm in front of everyone. Look at my team. And then right after that, when there couldn't be more eyes on you, your father goes, no, it's my team, and you're going to sell it. You're all of a sudden 8 years old again. I mean, you're 8 years old again. And then if he just would have said, like, look, I'm not really the owner, like all along, people would have loved him still. It wouldn't have changed anything. This inability to be transparent is very confusing to me, because it's always going to bite you in the ass. If you become a public figure and you aren't transparent, people will figure that out. Like, something's going to happen, because if you get too high, too many people are going to start paying attention. You know what I'm saying?
It took a long time for people to figure this out.
Right, because when you're not winning championships, and not like the Celtics haven't been good, but when you're not winning championships, the people aren't digging. So it's like the more success you have, the more transparent almost you have to be, because people are going to find things about you. I mean, look at RFK Jr. He was trying to get a whale specimen years ago, and now they're digging into it. Do you think they know that he threw a baby cub into Central Park?
No.
Years ago, if it wasn't for his presidential run?
Probably not. No.
That's what I'm saying, is that the higher you get, the more transparent I feel that you have to be, because it's better that you just say it. Because if Wyc Grousbeck 3 years ago goes, yeah, actually, like in an interview, like, actually, my dad is the majority holder in this team. Now I'm the governor, and I make most of the decisions, but ultimately I own a 2% stake in this team. We wouldn't even talked about it. We never would have discussed it. It wouldn't have been anything. And then when the team was going to be sold, you would go, all right, well, Wyc didn't own the team, but this is a shock. He did not let anyone know that this was what was going on. I mean, this is a humiliation. And Wyc Grousbeck is a guy who sold his story to Pilot. His show got put on the air. The show about the cuckold gentleman who lives with his new wife while the ex-husband sits around in the kitchen.
It's just it's amazing to me that the dad didn't want to spend the money on the players. You
don't want to lose money. I mean, the team is set to. If your kid went out, say this guy's 90 years old and he's not paying attention to everything. And then he doesn't really even care anymore. Like, what happens? He's like, great, they won a championship. That's nice. I mean, he didn't come out to my knowledge, like, get on the court or anything. And then you get a business report. So, like, you're just relying on reports. And then, Jeeves comes up to you with the spreadsheet and says, hey, next year you're set to lose $80 million.
Yeah.
And you go, what? How can I lose $80 million? We just won a championship. And they say, well, because you've given out this much in contracts. And you go, okay. Hey, and then you call your son, hey, moron, I don't want to lose $80 million on this investment. Like, what are you doing?
Spend all that money. I understand what Fred's talking about. It's spending $220 million on payroll is one thing, but with tax, it's double that. I mean, you just spent all that money on Drew Holiday, all that money on Derek White, all that money on Jason Tatum. I mean, that's a lot of money going out. And the word is, even though they won the finals, the Celtics barely broke even this year.
And they're set to lose tens of millions of dollars next year. And they will. Like, regardless, sell out every game no matter what.
Even if they race through the playoffs and win it again,
they'll
even
still
with
lose tens of millions
with the TV revenue, considering all the tax penalties they have coming at them, they probably will lose money next season.
And unless you are a billionaire that bought a team precisely to do what Wyc Grousbeck is doing, which is dance around in front of people with the trophy. If that's not your inclination, I could absolutely see going, all right, well, now this is a distressed asset and I don't want it anymore. Like you've won your championship, son. Now it's time to pack up the toy and give it to someone else. And I completely understand that. And it would annoy me too. if my kid who I gave the team to is dancing around with the trophy and acting like a big hotshot, and then I get a bill for $80 million, so my son could dance on the street, it would bother me too. Now, if it was my money and I was dancing on the street and that's what I wanted to spend my money on, I mean, is it worth $80 million to me if I'm a billionaire to, be on a duck boat in front of the town I grew up in and, have a million people cheer me? I mean, that might be what better way to spend money if I'm an attention seeker.
I'm sure Wyc's father has more money than any 50 people combined you could ever meet. But I think $500 million puts a dent in whatever you're worth. $500 million kind of makes you take notice.
Or how about your return on this investment is going to be huge. I want it now. And being annoyed with the kid, so again. If you're a kid, what's the equivalent $80 million to him to us, say? Say you saw your kid and he was like dancing around. He had won the big parade. Like they were throwing a big parade for him in your town, in Canton. Because Hardy, your son had like won some competition.
Yeah.
And you said
$800.
So, and you had found out that he had spent $800 of your money. Now you knew he spent a little bit of money. But you thought at least you'd break even, and then you found out that he spent $800, and you're like, I didn't want you to. Who told you could spend $800 just so you could go around and celebrate yourself?
Look, I don't blame him for wanting to sell the team, and for especially if the siblings want nothing to do with it. But I was still surprised when I found out after they had won the championship, their first announcement was, "We're selling the team," because at that moment, it doesn't seem like a bad investment. If you make another run at it, the valuation of the team only goes up. It's worth over $5 billion right now.
But I don't think that it goes up I don't think that however it works, I don't know if it justifies taking an $80 million loss this season if you don't have to.
Well, Golden State won a bunch of championships, and they spent more money than anyone in the league. And Golden State is worth, according to team valuations, somewhere closer to $8 billion.
There are differences there. First of all, cap rules are different now. Second of all, the Celtics don't own their own building, and that's a significant difference.
That's a part of it. Sure.
And third, it's worth a lot of money, so you sell it now and don't take the $80 million loss. It doesn't change anything. $80 million is still $80 million. The valuation of the team, you can sell it now and make all that return on your investment and not lose the $80 million. So, no, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not surprised at all. Again, he's in business to make money. Or at least break even. He was probably fine breaking even, but not $80 million. And not when it's being mismanaged, in his opinion. He feels it's being mismanaged. But what an embarrassment to Wyc. Oh, my goodness gracious. That has got to really hurt. I don't know if you get over that, right? The wind out of your sails, the flight of Icarus, fly on your wings like an eagle, fly high, touch the sun.
Well, we talked about it when the story first broke. It's like, the notion of him staying on as some kind of a steward during the transition and then having a job. It's like, no, you're not going to do that.
Well, that was pathetic.
No new owner is going to want you hanging around and making any kind of decisions. You don't own the team anymore. As it turns out, you didn't own the team in the first place. So what does he do? Now, he'll have plenty of money to invest in something, but can he attain the same heights, or at least the same perceived heights he was at before when we all thought of him as the owner of the Celtics? I don't think that's going to happen again.
Even if he does it again, and when his dad dies and they distribute the money and he gets somehow into another team, it's never going to be the same.
No.
And you're right. What Hardy was talking about is that when they were first talking about the sale, there was talk of Wyc Grousbeck staying on as a sort of advisor during the first couple of years of the sale, which was pathetic. It's a pathetic notion.
If Steve Pagliuca manages to gain controlling interest, there's a possibility of that happening.
Okay.
Other than that, you're more than likely correct.
It's Francesa doing a 1-hour podcast after he's retired from FAN for the second time.
It's really patting your friend on the head and going, it's okay.
Yeah, it's just like,
do you want to do this, little guy?
Yeah.
All right, you get out there, Tiger, and you act like you do something. If you're Wyc Grousbeck, do you really want that? Thanks, Steve. Yeah, kid. Pat him on the back. Go out there, champ. You can dance around in the street if we win again. Don't worry. You'll be in one of them duck boats. You go ahead. Your money is safe with me. What do you want? I want 0.001% of the franchise. That gets you a seat on the duck boat. And I'll give you tickets to 20 home games. That's what you'll get. You can sit in the front row like a big guy. I'll let you in through the back door. I mean, that's humiliating. I mean, it really is. Every time, it's like when someone stands up for like Sweet Caroline and they're like when someone stands up for the wave at a Red Sox game and gets nailed in the face with a foul ball. They're like they have a big smile on their face and they're jumping up with the wave and their hands are in the air and a ball gets fouled off right off their teeth and knocks their teeth off. That's what I see every time I see Wyc Grousbeck holding that trophy. Like, not so fast. Not so fast. You're none of this is real. Oof. Well, Freddie's going to make $10 billion. Yeah. But, I mean, let's be real. He really, really enjoyed holding that trophy and dancing around. And now that's been taken away from him. And his legacy has been taken away from him. It's very sad. And it's no doing of his own. He just should have been more transparent. And maybe he was, and no one caught it. But everyone seemed to be taken by surprise with this. Well, ask Chris Forsberg if he was.
Wow. You see that, Hardy?
I do. We're also going to have to ask him about the NBA Central list of the top coaches in the NBA.
Somehow the guy who won it's not in the top 10. It's pretty impressive.
Well,
what do you know about X's and O's?
He's 11th.
Tyronn Lue is ahead of him. Come on.
How many championships does Tyronn Lue have?
He has at least one.
Yeah, he has at least one.
Yeah.
That's not a ridiculous notion.
Has he been a good head coach ever since he had Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and James Harden and all those guys?
I can't tell you Tyronn Lue's coaching legacy.
As an out in L.A., he replaced Doc Rivers with the Clippers.
He was the Cleveland coach when LeBron won,
Yes,
right?
he was.
All right, and as an actual coach like Tom Thibodeau, okay, fine. I can see that. He's a good coach. But scoreboard counts for something. And the guy who just won
should be in the top 10.
I would
in the
put,
top third of coaches.
I think 7, is high enough and not too low to be insulting.
Thibodeau is under the bright lights of Madison Square Garden, where the boss has played so many shows, sharing a stage with the boss. All right, so Chris Forsberg will join us. We can talk about the public humiliation of Wyc Grousbeck, which in a way is gratifying, right? A billionaire dancing around with the trophy, and then the legs get cut off. It's my pettiness and my jealousy, I believe.
I see that.
I have a lot of pettiness and jealousy in me. I think that's why this is kind of
you're enjoying
resonating with me.
Yeah.
Not really. I feel bad for him. I really do. But when I talk about it, somehow I get a little pep in my step. I'm really a bad person. All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
This is how Boston sports fans start their day.
I bet you're just jealous.
Toucher and Hardy on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy. Got an email. I knew Wyc's father owned the team because Felger and Maz mentioned, only because Felger and Maz mention it all the time. They definitely knew. So anybody that listens to them a decent amount should know. I'd never heard it anywhere else. That's Dave in Lancaster. Good for Felger and Maz if that's true. John didn't know, and he flies on the team plane.
I had no idea.
Chris Forsberg is a big shot. He covers the Celtics for the NBC Sports Boston.
But does he fly on the team plane, Fred?
He does not. He has to fly commercial
right
like a
doesn't.
schmuck. He joins us on the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. Chris, hello.
First off, Spirit Airlines is a perfectly acceptable airline.
It's really not. They don't treat you well. I don't know if you've
about
heard
your
this.
luggage story.
Oh yeah. When my son left when he was like a toddler, or say 5, left his carry-on bag, like as kids will, like at the gate when we deplaned, and it had his the things he needed to go to sleep in it, the things that meant a lot to him. Again, he's 5, and I was at baggage claim, and I went into the Spirit offices, and a woman was having a meal right there at the counter, and she looked at me, and she just looked at me and ate. And I said, "Hey, my son left this thing at me," and she just looked at me, left it at the gate, and she just looked at me and ate, and looked at me and ate, and then they called the janitor. And I'm not kidding you. Their solution was to call a janitor, and the janitor said, "I'm not there," and then it went from there. Go ahead.
Ultimately, whose fault was it that the bag was not in the child's possession?
The child?
Yeah, well, that's not Spirit Airlines' fault. You pay your $60, you get what you get. And I get squired to and from Myrtle Beach. And, 5-year-olds got to be a little bit better in that situation.
Yeah, and that's their attitude, too, which is, you would fit in real well at Spirit Airlines because the attitude was, look, it's not my fault your kid left the bag. You would think that,
I think it's the same moral in that Knuffle Bunny book where the kid leaves the stuffed animal on the plane. At the end of it, the father just says, "That's what you get for not keeping track of your Knuffle Bunny." The end. And they never find the bunny.
Yeah, some other kid's going to get it.
Yeah.
A great life lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You might, another strategy might go, oh, this guy looks to be 40 years old. He might have 40 years left of his life. Maybe the best thing is to help the kid out. And then for 40 years, this guy travels with us.
Did you pay for that extra fee on the Spirit Airline ticket? It's like printing your boarding pass. That's a fee. Actually helping you locate things that were left on the plane. That's an extra fee. You have to pay for that ahead of time.
I would have been willing to give up a fair amount of money. Go ahead, Chris.
As part of the $9 club, I will not stand for any of this Spirit Airlines slander. I love my Spirit. It gets me to and from my Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
And I will,
only one.
Yeah, go
I will
ahead.
die on this hill.
There is a nonstop flight to Knoxville that leaves from Boston. There's one airline that does it, and I forget even the name of it. I tell you if I do, maybe Frontier, whatever it is. My mom's like, they do it. A, the flight's at like 5:30 in the morning, and it's the only flight. And B, when you go up to it, it looks like back in like 2007 when you clicked on a porn site. Like just there's 1,000 pop-ups that come up, and you're like, Jesus Christ. And I got to get out of there. I'm like, there's too much. It's too much happening. There's too much happening. I can't navigate it.
Out of all the endearing things about Chris Forsberg, this might be my new favorite. Big supporter and proponent of Spirit Airline. That's great.
Yeah.
My children have a song when the planes go over my mom's house in South Carolina, and they look up and they'll chant Spirit. Like little children don't know it's uncomfortable, and I don't suggest flying them long distances. Like I'm not telling you if when we go to Abu Dhabi to take Spirit over there, but you got a couple-hour flight, you want to save some bucks. It's great that we're going to transition from Spirit Airlines to the $500 million Celtics, but I digress. I love Spirit Airlines, and please send me like a T-shirt or something that I can wear proudly around my neighborhood.
Don't worry, Spirit Airlines big P1s of the show, so don't you worry. Their CEO is on board. All right, did you know Wyc Grousbeck was this much of a minority or owned this little of the Celtics?
I will admit I did not know it was quite as stark as it turned out to be. I knew Irv had a lot of the money, and then part of the reason why the family had the controlling interest, and Wyc was sort of the guy who was out front of everything. Certainly when you learn the percentages, it's a little jarring. But yeah, like I guess that's why I think it's hard for people to sort of wrap their head around everything that's going on. And I think part of it is like Wyc really enjoys owning this team. He's been really good owner for this team. Him and Pags and everybody in that group have been good stewards and trying to win championships. And so I think fans are wrestling with the idea of, look, winning is expensive, and I don't envy that position. I also know valuations of basketball teams are pretty high right now, and so they're just trying to find that balance. And I'm fascinated because it's been really quiet about this situation this summer. It's weird that like 2 days after the parade, I think it was, they're like, oh yeah, we're selling the team, and here we are 3 months later, and it still sort of doesn't feel like there's been movement, and maybe there is behind the scenes, and maybe we're just not hearing about it. But yeah, it's sort of like a roster doesn't change, but the biggest thing going into this year, I'm like, will there be a little bit of transition of power at some point, and how does that play itself out?
If they don't sell the team by the beginning of the year, is Wyc Grousbeck still going to be the mouthpiece for ownership?
Yeah, I think he'll be in that role, even potentially as the transition happens. I think until like everything is sort of signed over, he's still going to be front and center there, and probably that's But I mean, I think that's a good thing. I think he understands the responsibility that goes with it. But yeah, it's going to be weird. Like I think back, I keep talking to a lot of people down in Dallas. Like, what was it like when Mark Cuban decides to sell, and now there's like a new sort of majority owner? Like Cuban is still present and still on the sideline, but essentially there's someone there who's the owner. And
yeah, but Chris, Mark Cuban was a billionaire that bought the team on his own and kind of raised it up, and was and so now. And then he sold his, part of his stake, and now he's a minority owner.
I would say like famously involved, and even if it was just window dressing of him being courtside, he was inseparable from that team.
Well, no, but he owned it at one point. He sold. He sold what he owned. He owned it, right? Like Wyc never owned this. Like. Isn't it kind of like if you are looking to talk to Bill Belichick when he was coach of the Patriots, but like a special teams, or Steve Belichick comes out, like, and you're like, well, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the person that really does anything. Like, how can Wyc still fill that role?
Look again, like the power. I don't know how that goes. Like when you have a meeting and when you say, I want to talk to the owner of the Celtics, like who emerges? Does Wyc do all those things? I think. And the other thing and I know you guys read the story in the New York Post too, but like the idea that if there's a lot of owners of the Celtics, right? Like that are in this ownership group, and everyone has a different sort of stake in it, but everyone has to make that decision of whether they're going to spend all this money. This doesn't feel like a one person decision. So I think there's got to be, and certainly there's a hierarchy. There's certain process that it has to go through. And so, yeah, I'm intrigued by that. Like, how does that play out? Like, and as to your point, if Wyc's still sort of the face of the franchise as they're going through this, how does that play out? And so weird that is the biggest question mark going into a title repeat season. But it does sort of hover over everything. And the one thing I keep wrestling with is, do I want an owner that has the sort of ties that a Wyc and a Pags do to this franchise, and will embrace sort of Boston and the Boston Celtic mystique, or do we just want the biggest pocketed owner who can afford this roster and keep this championship core together? That to me is more of the intriguing part than necessarily the reasons for why they're all selling and moving on here.
Well, it hardly matters what we want. It's what the owners want. And if they're looking at this from a business standpoint, they're going to want the person who's going to write the biggest check. My question would then be, Chris, if you're looking at the financials of the team and the luxury tax and everything else, one of the things that Wyc brought up a few minutes ago, and something I forget about all the time, is the fact that they don't own the building.
Yeah.
So is
new owners are going to want a new building.
Okay, good luck.
100%.
Yeah, but I mean, where would it go? How much is that going to cost?
Everett, Massachusetts.
Yeah,
where all new buildings go.
And was that ever a consideration when Irv and the rest of the Grousbecks had ownership of the team?
I think it's a balance, right? Because there is a little bit of a mystique with the building, and the idea is it's not the Garden, but it's still on the same sort of site, and it is incredibly accessible, even though I think we all know making our commutes in, it's not the best drive to get there.
You hate that drive. Holy moly.
This is only the 8th time he's brought this up.
Yeah, you really don't like that drive.
But put it this way, the amount of love I have for Spirit Airlines is the exact amount of hate I have for how long it takes me to get from Central Massachusetts.
Yin and yang, my friend. It is the way of the universe. Continue.
Take the train.
If Spirit could get a plane from Worcester to Boston, I'd probably take it. But I do think that in the modern NBA, you have to own your own building. Like, you just see every franchise doing it now. The Clippers branching off and going to Inglewood or whatever their new arena is. And so I just think you're going to see it more often, is that it's another revenue stream. You're getting the concessions. You think about how successful the team is. The Celtics certainly make extra money for those playoff games, but you're just never getting the parking. You're not getting, like, the little things that probably do add up when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars of deficit for the amount you're paying for the roster. And yeah, like, that's going to be a really interesting long-term discussion. And it's not something that's going to happen quick, right? Like, just like you guys said, you got to find the land, you got to build the stadium. It's going to be a process, but I do think it's going to happen. If I'm a new owner, I think that's part of it. You want your own slice of land. You want sort of your team to be the focal point of that building, and then you can still recruit other acts on off nights. And I even wonder what that will be like for the Garden and a new arena to have a little bit of a tug of war over that. But ultimately, I wonder how I just feel like if a new owner comes in and they have the money, they're going to want that as part of the process, and that's going to be a huge storyline.
Ultimately, though, Chris, looking for the here and now with camp almost upon us, you have 3 guys who played basketball deep into the summer, and a fourth, and one of those 3 guys, Jason Tatum, apparently never went home. He went to China. He's been traveling to L.A. to be on Jimmy Fallon. I mean, and without Kristaps Porzingis available,
he's been writing. He's written a book.
Yes, that's right. He was seen rapping about it.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is maybe we should expect a slow start to the upcoming season, because Porzingis isn't going to be available until Christmas, and you got a lot of guys that played a lot of basketball all year.
So I'm going to push back. I'm going to go, like, when I started looking at the comps, and because, like, we did this thing where we had everybody on our NBC Sports Boston little panel predict, like, how many wins, and everyone kind of came down from the 64 they had last year. But I think the best comp is that 2008-09 team, where they win in 2007-08, and they realized, like, the window is still short, nothing is promised. And even though they brought back most of that core, I think Posey was the only guy they didn't have. I think they were like 27-2 going into Christmas, and they were just like a steamroll through the first part of that season. I think this team has that same potential. They've shown they can win without Porzingis. It certainly adds a layer of complication. But as much as I think they will try to, I just don't see Joe being the coach that wants to downshift guys. And I don't see, like, Tatum and Brown being guys that are like, yeah, we're just going to kind of lollygag through the regular season. No, I think they're going to want to kind of embrace that and just show how dominant they were last season and keep that going. Certainly, I think, look, if there's another injury as part of the mix, it could be a challenge out of the gates, but they got a ton of depth and they got a ton of continuity. While other teams are figuring it out, I think the Celtics have a real chance to hit the ground running. I know Joe's going to stress it every day, and it's going to be an overplayed storyline through training camp about the target on their back or the target in the middle of their eyes and all that. But I really I think this team has a real chance to hit the ground running.
All right. Well, Chris Forsberg, listen, everyone loves Spirit Airlines and hates the commute from Worcester to the Garden. Everyone can relate to your everyday man situation. You're very relatable, Chris Forsberg, if nothing else.
I appreciate it. I love you, Spirit.
All right, Chris, thank you. NBC Sports Boston, check them out. Thank you so much. There you have it. All right, listen, yesterday I made this statement, which I truly believe, and Adolfo Gonzalez seconded.
Well, in that case, we're good.
He said he started up. He was consulting a true crime comedy podcast out of Dallas, and he said that. You want me to read what he said?
Yes, I would.
Would you
love
like
to
me
hear.
Adolfo is consulting.
Adolfo, this is after he left here.
I want to know exactly what he said.
Or was this in high school? when was he consulting?
It says I listened to the first break this morning. I honestly think you would be great running a podcast network. I go, thanks, man. He says, I consulted on getting a podcast together out here once. Now they're a successful true comedy crime podcast. I used everything I've learned from you, Freddie T. # Fred the Mentor.
Consulted on getting a podcast running.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy. Consulted on comedy, Adolfo Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm. Now, the air, the flight.
We need your consultation. How do we start a podcast? Well, you're going to have to spend $40. And once you do that, you'll have a podcast.
Content. All right.
And 35 of those dollars are my consulting fee. You need to buy a $5 thumb drive to store the audio before you upload it. Consulting on starting a podcast.
There's one podcast that I listened to, the Rich Roll one, and he had this guy on that annoyed me so much I got through 3 minutes. 3 minutes. He owns restaurants, and he was talking like he was the Dalai Lama. It's like, all right, dude, you own a meatball shop.
I started listening to one, not the one that you told me about, but a different one I have to tell you about.
All right. So anyway, the fellas, Adam and Hardy, have pulled some audio from real radio stations, and I will consult them live on the air, proving to everyone what a fantastic manager of talent I'd be. We will be back in just a moment. Here are the headlines. Let's go. Let's ride.
98.5.
Like, let's roll the dice.
Sports Hub.
Oh. Elvis Costello switching to this song on Saturday Night Live and getting himself removed, and I could never figure out what he did wrong. Why did Lauren Michaels not want him to play this song?
Because it is an indictment on media, and he was not happy with that message being shared over his airwaves.
Yeah, I don't really get it. I thought it was counterculture. They talked about weed and stuff. I don't know why. I don't know. It's always disappointing. They're like, oh, Elvis Costello got kicked off Saturday Night Live, and you're like, oh, it's got to be something awesome. And it's just like, wow, he just played some song. Yeah, like, what's so bad about this song? Who cares?
Wait, ready? Here comes the fun part. This little squeaky part. Fun. It's fun when it's squeaky.
Okay. All right, Adam, get off the microphone. You're fired. How dare you?
It only took a week.
Yeah, I don't even know what the hell's wrong with you. All right, go ahead.
So, Fred,
what am I doing here?
Very intriguing the fact that you could be a consultant in the radio business.
Yeah.
I think I'm warming to the idea. Adolfo's already on board, so what more does one need? But in order to be a consultant, you're going to have to be there day one, prior to day one, for the launch of a radio station. So what I would like you to listen to here, Fred, is the launch of a radio station called Twister. And I want you to see and give some feedback on how this radio station launched. You will hear the last song played in the old format, sounded like a super oldies format, and the first minute or so of the big launch of this new radio station.
All right,
Tell me
so
what you think.
Everyone's gathered around their radios as it fades out. This is going to be an iconic moment. Here we go. That's the squeaky part, Adam. Of this song.
That's right, Fred.
Boo.
We're looking at the cloud camera pointed toward the west-southwest. You can see the two strong storms. Now we're on the 25-mile range. This is Sedgwick County right here.
A massive high, picking up warm, moist air from the south, bringing it northward. So when the two masses collide over Kansas,
it continues to move to the northeast. We're going to keep our fingers crossed that with the current movement, it stays just away to the south and eventually to the east.
so at this point, folks, those we here are moving to our shelters. We are moving to our shelters.
What the hell? What do you think of this radio station so far?
What the hell? What were they producing on a Commodore 64?
This is Augusta, Kansas.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Launching 100.5 the Twister.
By the way, you've been on the air for less than a minute, and this is what's playing. You're already a deliberate white noise.
Would you like to know when this radio station was launched? Would you believe in May of 2023?
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. What do you want? All right, a bunch of random clips from whatever, and then if you could throw in some white noise to really drive it home. Could you please do that for me? All right, what else? There's more from this Twister?
Okay, so they really haven't told you what's going on yet, other than that gives you some idea.
You let me know that it's going to be annoying.
Yeah.
Super, super, super annoying. That I'm clear about.
Now, in part 2, we will actually find out about the radio station.
Okay, because you got me with Twister. Now I understand Twister means tornado. You've made that in that there's going to be white noise.
Correct.
All right, so here we go.
A storm has a...
Oh, my God. just, oh, my God. And by the way, if you're in, nowhere, Kansas, how many of these hicks are, run for shelter? I mean, you're seriously, you're already violating...
I didn't hear a siren. Wait a minute.
Oh, I'm being told, no, that is incorrect. This actually launched this year.
Oh,
I thought it was
Jesus.
the one-year anniversary that we found the audio. No, this was in May of 2024. This is on the radio 5 months ago.
And I can't believe that stations are going out of
3
business.
months ago.
A storm has arrived in Wichita. Welcome to the new 100.5.
Oh, well, they got the most charismatic voice they could find via the computer that they're using.
A storm has arrived in Wichita. Welcome to the new 100.5, The Twister. A station that knows you miss country music's biggest hits from the 90s. George Strait, Reba McEntire, Garth, Brooks and Dunn, Alan Jackson, and more. And now they're back. Hi, it's Dan Holliday. I'll be along for your ride to work starting Monday morning at 6 a.m. And for the drive home, Becca used to be on the air with us back in the day on another Wichita country station.
Oh, my God.
Any pointers for him so far?
You've given me a lot of reasons to listen to you in the morning. You'll be playing Reba McEntire like only you can. I mean, you've got me already. And then there's a woman that used to be on this other station that I'm familiar with. You might be familiar with. I'm not going to give you too much information. I'm not going to give you too much information. No, my advice would be fire everyone that's involved in this and let's start fresh. Let's not call this the Twister at all.
Becca used to be on the air with us back in the day on another Wichita country station.
You know, Becca, her cousin works over at the Walmart on 33rd.
Hey, it's Becca.
And she's decided to be part of our fun.
Hey, it's Becca on the new 100.5 The Twister.
Hi, we've all been lobotomized. There is a creature that has come and made us all automaton slaves. Hi, it's Becca. Yeah, I used to be on the other station. Hi.
Well, I wasn't doing anything, and they said they're going to do this, so I said, okay.
We're going to have fun here at this station, ladies and gentlemen.
When Dan Holliday asked if I'd be interested in doing afternoons on KVWF.
Dan Holliday, whose office is located in the northwest corner of the building, when he asked me if I'd be interested in doing it, I said hello. Hi, I'm Becca. I'm the one person that can speak. I'm the one person born with tongue in this part of Kansas. Hi, I'm Becca. You might know my parents. John and Faye.
When Dan Holliday asked if I'd be interested in doing afternoons on KVWF, my love of country music and passion for radio instantly said yes.
All right. What about your brain? And by the way, what the hell is KVBF? I mean, you're just saying a bunch of stuff I don't understand.
Plus, Dan and I have successfully worked together on many projects throughout our 30-plus year friendship.
Well, obviously not. If you're both available to take this Twister situation up, many successful projects. Yes, we've been to IKEA several times and managed to make the bookshelves.
Dan and I have successfully worked together on many projects throughout our 30-plus year friendship, and I look forward to working alongside him to bring his vision for the new 100.5 The Twister to life.
So now we'd like to ask you for a favor.
Oh, already? Oh, boy. Already? Well, you got me. I mean, I understand there's tornadoes in Reba, and that you guys have had known nothing but success for the last 30 years. That's why you're still in Wichita, Kansas. Everyone is excited about all of this. What's the favor?
Please text your friends and tell them the news. A storm has arrived. This is the new 100.5 The Twister.
Well, that part I like. Text your friend. Ay. It's all going down. It's all going down. It's all going away.
You got to give him some constructive criticism, though, Fred. If you're going to be a consultant, what do you tell him?
I would say fire your imaging director, fire the people that came up with this stupid idea, fire your non-personality on-air talent.
Hey, it's Becca.
Can you had a minute to tell me what was going on, and you just told me that you've had several successful things. They have to be so overly vague.
They told you what's going on.
A storm has arrived.
Yeah. Oh, boy. I have a feeling not many people heard that, Bo. I have a feeling that most people that have ever heard that just heard it right now.
I don't think we're going to have time
they're
to
in
get
this
to
room.
the three other air checks, so we'll save those for another time.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we will be back. Andrew Callahan will be on with us as he covers. That's right, Hoss. As we will be talking about your Patriots for the next hour, 617-779-0985.
More.
1. Antonio Gibson just ran for nearly 100 yards in a loss on Sunday and now has to go out again on a short week.
Just lock in mentally, take care of your body as much as you can, and just be ready to bring your own juice on Thursday. It's a quick turnaround. They're going to be tired just like we're going to be tired. But at the end of the day, it's all about who shows up and is ready to compete.
Patriots will also be without linebacker Jawan Bentley, who reportedly tore a pectoral muscle in a loss to Seattle next weekend and is expected to miss the rest of the season. The team will practice later today. Yesterday, they signed offensive lineman Michael Jordan to the 53-man roster from the practice squad. Last night, Atlanta scored a big upset in Philadelphia, 22-21. Kirk Cousins, a 7-yard touchdown pass to Drake London with just over 30 seconds left for the win. San Francisco will be without Deebo Samuel for the next couple of weeks with a calf strain. That means the 49ers will be down Samuel and Christian McCaffrey for their matchup with the Patriots a week from Sunday. Big news from the Carolina Panthers. Yesterday, they benched starting quarterback and former overall #1 draft pick Bryce Young. Andy Dalton will start for the Panthers in Las Vegas on Sunday, and the Red Sox had last night off. They have 12 games left in their season. They visit Tampa Bay tonight. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by John Sewer and Drain Cleaning. 24-hour on-call service for your clogged drain emergencies. Go to johnsewer.com. I'm John Wallach on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 8:30.
Dressed like a gorilla.
Half Huddy.
A big, beautiful ball of flavor.
And a whole lot of Boston sports.
And I have had many offers to become an insider. Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. You can watch us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search 98.5 The Sports Hub, and then if you hit subscribe, everyone gets $1 million here. We all benefit. This is the future. Andrew Callahan is the present. He is the Patriots reporter. He is a columnist for one of the Patriots reporters and columnist. Your Doug Kyde, your coworker over there. One of his tweets was put on awful announcing.
Oh, I missed this.
No, it was like a favorable one. Mm-hmm. But they were saying that Belichick last night during the Manning cast apparently was very critical of the Falcons. They were saying perhaps that's because of his, not getting the Falcons job. And then just to bring it on home, they had Danny Livshatz, another guy, and Doug Kyde's tweets about the very same thing, saying it's been second and third. So don't you worry. Alpha announcing's coming correct. Did you see that last night?
No, I did not. I had a little bit of work going on, but I did see some clips, and it reminded me, and I think you guys know this, like the longer you're on air, podcast, TV, radio, whatever, there's an inevitability that you can only put on for so long. So I feel like folks who do not know Belichick in a way that New England do, listening to press conferences and being on the radio, TV, etc., will start to figure things out. This is number one so far. He's a petty person. Anytime he had a chance to skewer the Falcons, they were too early in free agency, got fined for that. Can't tackle, bad offense, bad defense. And look, that doesn't take away from him being the greatest coach of all time. But when it comes to holding grudges, he's also a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I don't think his media career is going to go over so well. I think this might be short-lived. But but he was on Let's Go.
Yeah, let's go, everybody. Come on, let's go.
Him and Tom Brady. All right, so they're coming back. They're playing Thursday night. The Jets are 6.5-point favorites. Hachi Machi. Why? Why are the Jets 6.5-point favorites?
Patriots can't pass the ball.
Okay, but they can run. The Jets' run defense has been bad. But let's just go over things. So the Patriots have been able to successfully dominate time of possession in the first two. Or they've been good with time of possession, certainly against Cincinnati. I would assume, let's say. The Jets have had no time of possession in their first two games. The Jets have struggled against the run. The Patriots can run the ball well. And the Patriots are good against the run, and the Jets have been relying an awful lot on the run. 6.5-point favorites against the Patriots, a team that they usually struggle against. Home opener. Why 6.5?
Okay. I'd say a couple things. Number one, this is the Jets' first home game. So we could talk about them being 1-1, barely beating Tennessee. They went on the road and also lost to the Niners. Within that, you have a much more talented team. It's also healthier. I mean, the Patriots are starting a third-round rookie, third-string left tackle who hasn't done that full-time since high school. If Caden Wallace is going to replace Vidarian Lowe, and Vidarian Lowe left Sunday's game with a knee injury.
So just real quick, Vidarian Lowe, they said, though, it's day-to-day, right?
We'll see. I think Maye smartly has adopted the Belichick approach when it comes to injuries. Like he once said, I'll be as transparent as possible. Turns out that's not transparent at all, which
then
is
he
fine.
got into the job and realized, no,
as a fan, you don't want him to be transparent about injuries.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So starting up front, the Jets have a big advantage defensively. The Patriots, as we know, can't play from behind. So all it takes is one Aaron Rodgers drive to do what Geno Smith did on Sunday. Blitz coming over here. We've got a zone blitz over there. They're playing cover 2. Like stuff that he can still do even if his arm is still not there at 40. And he hasn't been a great quarterback, I should say, for the last couple of years.
His arm is still there. His mobility is not. That's the big issue, is that he really can't move. His arm's really good. It's actually quite fun to watch. He cannot move. That is the one problem. If you get in his vicinity, he's going down. All right, go ahead.
And that's the other part. I don't think the Patriots can generate enough pressure on him. And the Jets' offensive line is not particularly good. But they tried to rush forward for most of Sunday against Seattle that had bad guards and a third-string right tackle. They couldn't do it. So they blitzed in overtime. And we saw how that went. First down, game over. That's what it is. So the Jets, all they need is to cover in the first half. And then they can go on cruise control for the rest of the game because the Patriots cannot play catch-up the way that they're built.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we said after watching that first game is, all right, you can get away with that and you can play that way as long as you have the lead and you maintain the lead and you can just run the ball and even bring in an extra offensive lineman and try and do it that way. But you're right. They can't pass the ball. And when it comes to the loss on Sunday, what bothers me, I think what bothers a lot of people who want to see this team get to more than 4 or 5 wins this season, if you let a game like that slip away, a game that you have a chance of winning, I think anyway, in the back of my mind, there are going to be plenty of games they're just not in this season. They have no chance of winning. You had the lead. You had the lead late, and you had every chance to win that game. If you let those slip away, that chips away at that win total and giving yourself something to tune in for every week and thinking, you've got a competitive football team. If you can't be competitive against that team in that situation like they were in on Sunday, what does that mean for the games that you're really not going to be competitive in? Is it blowout time? Is it turning it off at halftime and going off and doing something else? That's what you're afraid of.
Yeah, and they won in the way they needed to, right? 0 turnovers, over 150 yards in the ground. I don't particularly care about time of possession. It's more like what you do with the time than the amount that you sit on the ball, because the Seattle showed, if we just want to throw to DK Metcalf and he wants to sprint as fast as possible for 56 yards and a touchdown, that minute and a half was much better than your 34. Cool. But they did, again, everything they needed to, except some very fundamental things like block a field goal attempt. Seattle overloaded the left side of the line, which everyone could see, and they couldn't block it. So had they gotten that field goal, I think up 6, they probably make a stop at the end. But those are the fundamental things, which A, happen in week 2, happens to everybody. But B, they can't afford to screw up because of just the way they're built.
How are they not getting home with 4 at all? Keon White by himself has been very, very good. What are the other 3 guys doing? Why can't they block? Why can't they pressure the passer at all? I'm confused by this because I watch Keon White. He's there all the time. He's from the middle and from the edge. He's provided pressure on the quarterback, but you're telling me the other 3 guys have been that bad?
Well, I think it's not what they're doing. It's who they are, right? Devon Gottschall's playing more than half of the snaps. He's their nose tackle. That should be first down, second down, get out of there. Instead, he's in passing situations. Dietrich Wise only had 1 pressure, to your point. Joshua Uche, 1 hurry. We haven't seen that guy, it feels like, in 2 years. That's it. But you're relying on them. Anthony Jennings is another name, run first player, that have to play because Barmore's out. You traded Judon. You didn't replenish the line with many other pass rushers. This is it. And they did have O'Shane Ximines banged up, but we can't look at this tape and be like, they would have won had they had O'Shane Ximines, all due respect. It's just they're asking guys to do, in my opinion, too much right now, given their early down workload.
All right, what happens if first of all, Jawan Bentley's probably out for the season with the torn pectoral muscle, as John said in his update. What How does that affect the defense? How big a blow is that for the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's a big blow. And I look at it this way. The Patriots, for years, Jawan Bentley said this last week, could bank on the run defense. We're going to show up. You're not going to feel like you can run the ball. That's how good we are, good enough. Jawan Bentley is number 2 in the list of players that you cannot lose for that run defense. Number 1 is Devon Godchaux. He's 250 pounds. Geno Smith highlighted him. It is his first player in the press conference last week talking about the Patriots defense. So once you set the terms of engagement right there before you get on the field, you're not going to run the ball on us. You know then what the other team probably wants to do a little bit more, which is throw. He also made the calls, made the checks. They can't afford now to lose Jelani Tavai, who is almost as irreplaceable as David Andrews is offensively, which you go like, those are kind of the meh guys on the roster.
Yeah.
There's nothing sexy about either of them.
Like
expect otherwise.
Yeah. It doesn't ring like Patrick Mahomes, like Tavai.
But if we called Tavai the Flying Hawaiian, I think that might spice things up for him. Anyway, you can't afford to lose that guy because he would be possibly making the calls now, playing on the edge, playing off the ball. He's big. He's a really good playmaker, I think, in space, underrated in that way. And if you lose him, you're down to your second-string linebackers we just talked about, second-string pass rushers. Okay,
and so what happens if the Jets, like we're watching on Thursday, and by some untold miracle, the Jets march down the field. They score a touchdown. They're up 10. Let's say then the field goal happens. They inexplicably stop the Patriots, and it's 10-0.
Game over.
It's 10-0. What did the Patriots do at that point? Like How does that look? How many wide receivers had
three catches, and one of the Osborne catch was in overtime. So really, it's 2.
So yeah, the wide receivers not overly used in the game plan. They relying on the tight end, throwing to the backs. What do they do if they're down 10? Like, what does that look like?
I think until the fourth quarter, you still run the ball. That's the only thing you're good at right now. And at the point is to cover the field, get into the end zone. You got to do what you do well. Because it's funny you say they didn't really feature the receivers. Obviously, the catch numbers are what they are. Everyone knows those by now. Their most common personnel grouping against Cincinnati and then Seattle was 3 receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back. You would have never known that because their success rate in that grouping with 3 receivers was by far their worst in both games. So I would say either not ditch that, but pivot more of those snaps to 2 tight ends or an extra offensive lineman, or – and I would fully do this starting today when they go to practice, give Demario Douglas all of his snaps at 1 receiver position. Rotate opposite him with Polk, Osborne, and Tyquan Thornton.
Okay, because Douglas was frustrated after the game.
Yeah. Well, he left. He didn't talk to us. He was frustrated yesterday. Very
yesterday.
Sorry.
What's he going to talk about? He didn't even get targeted, much less have a catch.
Yeah, why would you talk to him?
Yeah, there's nothing to talk about.
Andrew, for those who don't know, if you don't have the exact quote, who cares? But what did Douglas have to say?
So 2 things. He said it was very, very challenging dealing with the lack of targets, lack of production. He's a receiver. All receivers struggle when they don't get the ball. Number 2 was asked, do you feel like you've been able to prove what you can do? He said, not this year, last year. That was it.
Okay, so the reasoning behind it could be as simple as offensive line isn't giving Jacoby Brissett enough time. We talked about it yesterday with Sosi. He said, yeah, well, if it's not there the first or second read, I understand that. That's a time issue with the offensive line, but is it also an issue with Jacoby Brissett where if it's not immediately right there, he can't do it?
No. There are 2 things, and you hit on the protection. That's the biggest one. So he's getting pressured on 45% of his snaps, even though, combined between them, the Seahawks and Bengals have blitzed them 6 times total. So they're rushing up in the way that the Patriots want to. We're going with 4. We're going to get home, and we'll put 7 in coverage. So he's getting pressured 1 out of every 2 times he drops back. Number 2 is, and I know Mike Reese, I think, said this to you guys yesterday, the passing game that Alex Van Pelt has is a very downfield, play-action shot kind of passing game. The Browns last year, they had 5 quarterbacks, led the league and the number of yards. I kid you not. Their passes covered in the air. Like, we're
Flacco.
Bleep it and chuck it.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing.
Hell yeah.
So when you pair that kind of passing game with an offensive line that cannot block 4 as it stands right now, by the time the receivers do get downfield and finish the routes, Brissett can't do anything with it. And he's actually doing, talk about more unsexy stats, this is what I bring you 8 to 9 on Tuesdays, an unbelievable job of avoiding sacks, given the rate of pressure he's facing. It's one of the best rates in the league. If he wasn't pulling a you-know-what out of his ass, that would be a rabbit. I guess I screwed that up.
Yeah, you said pull. You censored the wrong thing. You said pulling an ass, but you didn't pull. You said so. We'll never know.
It must have been.
It must have been. You know what it was? He was going to say the C word.
No. I don't.
It doesn't make sense.
Period.
But Andrew Callahan,
Yeah.
newsflash, was about to drop a hard C.
No.
Oh.
And that's not just because Mom's listening. Don't say that word. But the point is, Jacoby Brissett.
No one out of his ass.
You know, he pulled what out of his ass. And if I told you what he pulled, you'd be off the air, my friends. Because there was a bunch of stuff up in that ass. Let's just put it that way. Brissett's nickname in the locker room is the Keister. All right, go ahead. Recover now.
I don't think
Good
I
luck.
can. I think I need to take a lap
All
around
right.
the studio.
All right, very
no, look,
good.
here's the last thing. So he's been pressured 28 times so far. That's a lot, 14 per game. He's only taken 4 sacks. And that's key because whenever you get a sack, it kills the drive. It happened on Sunday. Anytime he went backwards, the drive was done. But when he extends plays, dodges rushers, finds Hunter Henry, completes those passes, that not only keeps them alive, but moves them forward in a way that they can't get those plays unless he's doing that. So he's doing a really, really good job of not letting bad situations, which is every time he drops back to pass, get worse. And that's allowing to get whatever points that they have.
And just quickly, and then we'll move on from this particular conversation. But Van Pelt, you said, had this F it and chuck it style of offense. You're saying that they can't do it. Does he look to be in any way adapting to the personnel issues that he has?
A little bit, yeah. And here's the thing, though. You could adapt and run more quick passing game, which I think they should. But even then, with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback and KJ Osborne, Tyquan Thornton, and DeMario Douglas, and whomever else, Jalen Polk, that's still not a good passing attack. The Jets are not looking at their scouting report this morning and being like, oh, we got to watch out for this receiver. What they're doing is saying we need to stop the run. So within the adjustments, I wrote about this morning, he made a really good adjustment in the fourth quarter, which started those last 2 scoring drives. So it's more the schematics on the ground. But you could only do that, as you guys know, if you're within 7 points, which they were against the Seahawks. But if they get down, it's cool that you want to change up from more man block runs to zone. The other team's fine with that because that means you're not throwing the ball.
Okay. It should be interesting. The Jets have been a bit of a sieve when it's come to opposing running backs. But then again, Kansas City didn't have the biggest star, McCaffrey. So, there is an excuse. The Jets had to stop the kid from Georgia Tech that was undrafted, that ran for 140 yards.
Jordan Mason.
Thank you, John. I would not have remembered his name.
Yeah.
But the Jets do have the kid from Wisconsin, 2 touchdowns, the youngest kid since 1950 to score a touchdown in the NFL. And his name eludes me. But he is number 0, which shows a bit of confidence, don't you think, to take the number 0?
Christian Gonzalez. Yes.
All right. Very good. Odd-looking gentleman, Christian
Still waiting
Gonzalez.
on Christian Gonzalez to get me the first of the 1.5 interceptions I need him to get this season. That was the line.
That still seems pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, teams are throwing at him. We didn't. The reason
That's
why the
what
number
I
was
know.
so low.
He apparently
is that that no one's going to throw him. No.
That
First 2 weeks, people are
that
throwing
first
at him.
touchdown does not count as throwing at him because he was nowhere near the ball.
Well, correct.
It was to his side, but it was.
They're not
close to it.
calling off.
Well,
for
you
that
haven't
one.
looked at advanced stats. Apparently, he did a very good job on DK Metcalf. When he was on him, Jonathan.
But the thing is, people are still throwing at Gonzalez.
Well, listen.
Good. I need them to.
Maybe there will be a deflection, and Hardy will win some money. All right, we'll be back in just a moment.
You're listening to Toucher and Hardy.
98.5 The Sports Hub.
Wristband, checking out of the play. He's in the gun. Left foot forward. Still a 3-by-2 set. Tight end in motion to the left. Shotgun snap. Long ball down the left side, wide open. Metcalf in stride at the 20 by his lonesome. High step into the end zone.
He brought a backside blitz with Tavai on a late hug blitz. I'm watching the blitz. This had to be a busted coverage because Gonzalez has followed him all around the field since the snap of the first play. So he's underneath with Doug over the top. There had to be a miscommunication.
Wow. This is like fusion.
At the drive-in.
Oh, at the drive-in. Everyone loves at the drive-in. All right, we are Toucher and Hardy. We have Andrew Callahan from the Herald. He covers the Patriots, obviously, among other things. All right, Andrew, what happened on the play, the big DK Metcalf touchdown that we just played? What was Zolak right, or was he a big dumbass? What happened?
No, I mean, well, both can be true. Yes. No, look. It was a coverage bust. He's absolutely right. They had checked to this all-out blitz coverage wherein the defensive backs basically are supposed to sit at the line to gain and look at the quarterback, understanding, hey, everyone else is going to blitz him. We'll sit here and break in any sort of short throw. And Seattle, even though the Patriots checked to this, expected either the coaches or the players to call this at some point and had the perfect answer for this, which says, okay, cool, you want to sit at the line to gain 5 yards away. We will send DK Metcalf as fast as possible from the slot straight up the field, and that will be where we're going to throw the ball because we're going to protect this up in a way that you don't expect.
All right, and there was a what's the story around this, Andrew? Is this the play that you were talking about with the Belichick thing?
Yes. So this I didn't realize until yesterday diving into the film, and this is kind of like, I would say, a fun fact, but a little bit cruel to folks who are listening here. And the basic premise is whenever a defense runs an all-out blitz, right, you are going to have one more rusher than they can block. Because once the quarterback takes a snap, he's throwing to or being blocked by 10 players. That's it. The defense goes, okay, we will cover all 5 receivers one-on-one, and then we'll have 6 blitzers for your 5 offensive linemen. So how do you solve that? Well, the Patriots, ahead of this divisional round game they lost at Denver back in January 2006, they go for the three-peat. They lose to the Broncos. Had to solve this problem because Denver was really, really good with these all-out blitzes. So Belichick, back then, and this is told by Dominique Foxworth, who played on that Broncos team last year, said, we'll have a receiver who splits out wide, and the Denver will do their thing, and they'll set up, send one more rusher, except at the snap, this receiver will come over and block the defensive end that we're going to leave all alone. So what that'll do will even up this numbers advantage that Denver has because we take a receiver who's being covered and have him block someone, which means his defender is kind of in no man's land.
Right, exactly, because he's a corner or that's following the receiver and then
not rushing.
Not rushing. So he's stuck just 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage with nothing to do. Exactly.
What this does is it lets the quarterback have an extra second because eventually, like that guy who's covering the receiver, who's no longer a receiver but blocking, will be like, oh, okay, I'll just join the rush. But in that extra second, you don't have to throw a slant or a swing pass or a pass in the flat. You can go downfield. And so the Patriots use this game, still lost to Denver, but the week after, Denver hosts the AFC Championship game, and they play the Steelers. And Bill calls up Pittsburgh, according to Bill Cowher, says, hey, what do you want to know about Denver? And they used this same scheme, except not with just a rinky-dink, whatever receiver the Patriots had that year, with Hines Ward, who will block anybody and beat the Broncos in Denver, go to the Super Bowl, and they win in Detroit, as I'm sure, Fred, you remember.
Oh, yes, absolutely. A very much maligned Super Bowl victory against the Seattle Seahawks. People thought that Seahawks were unfairly penalized in that game, if you recall. Why did Belichick call Cowher? Like, what was his deal against Denver? What was it?
I have no idea.
Yeah, like what's going on with Belichick? You cover the NFL. How often are these coaches calling each other and giving each other pointers? Doesn't that seem odd to you?
Well, it does if they're outside of the same families,
right?
Exactly. And we know Belichick and Shanahan have utmost respect for each other. They're on the record like, oh, the hardest defensive coach I've gone against. No one gave me more problems than Mike Shanahan, yada yada. I don't think Belichick and Cowher had that same relationship. It was probably, as he said in the last segment, just a Hall of Fame petty person. And that's Bill, and it worked for him. And he got to squeeze every bit of juice out of that orange so long as he was coaching. I think it was just, they beat us, F them, Here's a scheme, and it worked. And it was the same one that Seattle used 2 days ago on that play to Metcalf, because, again, that's a longer developing route. Geno Smith had time. They used that blocking scheme and got the touchdown.
It just seems like ego-wise, I would go the opposite way.
I want the team that beat me to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, see? Like, it turns out they could end up beating everybody.
Maybe the handshake was not as firm as he would have liked. After all, his father was in the military. He loves the Navy, but he could have easily joined the Navy, but he chose just to worship it from afar. Every time someone says, oh, his dad was in the Navy, he's like, he grew up around the military. Well, then why didn't he join the military if he loves the Navy so much?
Maybe he had flat feet.
My father had flat feet, among a bunch of other issues. 6 balls.
Wow.
All right, Andrew Callahan, since we're talking about Bill Belichick.
And odd that he would end up with only one kid. With all that extra sperm being produced.
That hip game was on fire.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't, more of them doesn't equate to more of what you just said.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
you'd be interested to find out.
Have you learned that at Northeast Men's Health also? Extra testicles don't necessarily mean you're going to have more children?
No, I learned that from my favorite adult film, E.T.
That's right, E.T. had. God, how many testicles did he have?
He would phone home and he'd go, what's going on here? That's how you knew he was an alien, in the shower.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. They didn't know E.T. Then they wanted to cut him open and see why he had 6 balls.
Yeah, it didn't stand for extraterrestrial.
No, it's a whole thing. Andrew.
Extra testes.
Andrew Callahan. Listen, why will Bill Belichick, who's doing all this media now and is terrible, except to football writers somehow find him fascinating? I don't. I think he's boring, and the audience has voted by not watching it because the ratings are very low from the Manning cast, despite the charismatic personas of the two Mannings. Do you think he's going to coach again? For instance, just to give you a little bit, I was listening to WFAN yesterday as a Jets fan, but they were against I emailed them to tell them about this, but they were talking about the Giants. And I didn't like that because I didn't want to hear that, so I emailed them and yelled.
Sure.
As our listeners do to us when we're speaking about something they don't want to hear at that time. And they're like, call Belichick, get him on the phone right now. And to that I would say, what are you, an idiot? The Giants are a long way away from competing. Why would you want an old-ass head coach that just blew himself out of town and going to make personnel moves? Cowboys or something like that, I guess I understand. Do you think he'll coach again?
Yes. Yes, I do. I think this is going to work. Ultimately, I know he wants to coach again. This is why he's doing it. Bill O'Brien said it earlier this month. I think he's getting ready to coach again. I mean, and I want to say this too. Whatever your critiques are of the media part, when I was covering him as a football coach, I both could look at the guy, understand he's being petty, short, gruff, whatever, and appreciate the brilliance that was in front of me. I got the Super Bowl in the first season. Right.
No, but the media says he's good on TV, which he's not. And that's the thing. You can admire him as a coach, and I do too, obviously. But he's terrible on television. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the same way with Brady, not particularly good first game.
He won't be.
Better against the Saints. But he's not doing this all-out blitz to be as visible and as personable as possible, except to be on the screen when, let's say, for example, Robert Kraft, an owner, was, as he said, on the treadmill last November doing the McAfee show, and McAfee pops up because McAfee's everywhere. So Bill's on the McAfee show. He's on YouTube. He's doing the Manningcast. He's doing all these things to shed the 72, 73-year-old guy, gruff, why do I want to work with him? Over the next 4 months, he's trying to build up this, that's not who I am. You've seen me. You've heard me. I'm laughing. I'm cutting it up. I'm teaching you something. You should want me to be your next head coach, whether it's in Dallas, Philly, Giants, or wherever.
You can't erase 35 years of behavior in 4 months. That's one thing. But the other thing is, and I've told these guys this too, the rules haven't changed. He's still going to want some measure of control wherever he goes. He's not there for a rebuild, and that narrows his job possibilities significantly. We're back down to where we were last year. Dallas, if they fail again, Philadelphia, if they fail, and who else?
So I don't see it that way. I see it as a guy who loves football more than any other person on the planet, and then by extension will do anything to get this wins record, to stand alone. He's accepted as the greatest coach of all time. That's the only thing left in his way from it being written as fact for the rest of eternity. So he also has the ego of someone who won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach and 2 more as an assistant and goes, I don't care if it's the Giants roster and I have to keep Daniel Jones and it's in my contract until Daniel Jones quits. I will make this work. Because he doesn't think
no way he's not that dumb. You're telling me he's going to come back to go 7 and 10?
No, he'd take the job. My point is, why would the Giants hire him? Yeah, he'd take it because he wants that wins record. I understand. But I understand why he'd take the job.
I don't know why he takes that job if he wants the wins record.
Because it's the only one available and it's the only way he's going to get wins. You can't win with if you're not coaching.
And he thinks he'll do a better job than any of us do. And he might be right. But as far as the personnel goes, too, there's good reporting around this at ESPN that says he was at least expressing that he was willing to work with Atlanta and keep some people on, which they knew and were afraid of being steamrolled
well,
in
that's
the first
thing,
4 months.
Is that the shadow general manager over there, I forget his last name, he's one of those football families. McKay had the ear of Arthur Blank, who Bill Belichick insulted last night.
If you're a
during the
team,
broadcast.
you have to hire Belichick and all of his cronies, and then when he's done in 3 years, blow it up and start over again?
Oh, good.
Who are the good teams in the NFL right now?
Ooh. The Saints are up there, no question.
Are you sold on them?
Not as a championship contender, but making the playoffs, sure. Like they're what they're doing, and this is not totally sustainable, is taking a lot of low-hanging fruit. Meaning Derek Carr had the lowest rate of passes last year that were screens or play-action passes. Generally not like cheat codes, but easy yards. Just take him. He's not a guy you can put the whole offense on his shoulder and say, lead us to victory, take us to the Super Bowl. You need to give him that low-hanging fruit. They're eating it now, and it's sweet and it's working. The Bills are good, no doubt in my mind. I think you go to the Central, we know the Steelers are going to be or the Central, the North, 9-8.
Yeah,
they're hanging around. They're going to be a tough out. Houston's really good. I still think struggle with the Bears, but they got the win. And otherwise, we're going to find out. The NFC is a mess right now. Chiefs, yeah, of course.
Okay. Belichick was talking about, I heard him talking about in one of the 5,000 things he does, he was talking about the Saints, and he was saying, in a backhanded way, they're too old. He's like, it's interesting because they have the oldest roster in the NFL, and, a lot of people think that if you're too old, you'll falter at the end of the season. If you're too young, you won't start strong.
So I didn't hear it that way. I heard it as that's smart, and that's smart not just because they're 2-0. That's what I used to do.
Ooh.
The Patriots annually were one of the oldest rosters in the league, and this was not like the Brady bump, right? Or Matthew Slater still somewhere in the back, so his 36, 37 years counts. This was, I'm looking at middle-class veterans, 1 or 2 year deal, cheap. You'll know the system. You can bounce around, play different positions. That will be my edge because you're cheap and you can outperform your contract more easily than a guy coming in who's 25, 26, going to break records in free agency. That's how we built this team. Older guys who would do what he said and knew what they were doing.
Oh, that's interesting because he did say they're old. They have the oldest roster in the NFL, and that a lot. And people think that you'll wear down by the end of the season. I mean, he said that, but maybe he was it was a backhanded way. I don't know. He kind of coached it with it really did sound coached it. I don't know if that's right. Couched it with the he really did make it sound like a negative. But listen, Jim Gray was interviewing him, so what do you want out of him? Jim Gray, who will play maybe a little bit of, is it's like nails in a chalkboard, that guy's voice. Oh, boy. All right. Andrew Callahan is here for another break. We will have him still talking with us. Here are the headlines. blasting explosion.
98.5, the Sports Hub.
Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy. Andrew Callahan is with us. We're brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Andrew Callahan covers the Patriots, columnist, a bunch of stuff for the Boston Herald. And, okay, so, if the Patriots lose to the Jets, they're 6.5-point dogs. Let's not go crazy with the Jets necessarily winning this game, but they do, then they're 1-2, and then, of course, the conversation becomes, when does Drake Maye play? Now, there's a 10-day break between the Jets game and the 49ers game. Let's start with this. How do you think they'll handle Maye, win or lose, during that extended break? Do you think Maye will continue to get first-team reps? Will they up the reps? What do you think?
No, I think he's getting enough reps in practice right now by virtue of the fact that 6 times more than any other backup in the league really receives on a weekly basis. So he's getting 30%, according to Gerard Mayo, this first reported by CBS over a week ago, of the starting reps in practice. That takes away from Jacoby Brissett, who they want to play, has played, and actually played better than I think he's getting credit for.
No, obviously with no time to throw, sure.
Right. But that's the point. That's why he's here. You have to take hits. You have to be durable. You have to be a leader amid all of this mess and save Drake from the punishment that could ruin a rookie quarterback. If you don't believe me, and Drake's different from Bryce Young, he's much bigger. Just ask Carolina that just benched him because Bryce's confidence is gone playing behind a bad offensive line.
Derek Carr, Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold. Just you can go on and on. Geno Smith. Some guys that are succeeding in the NFL now. They're in really bad situations and get pummeled like that, and someone has to build them back up. And that's what happened to Bryce Young. Go ahead. So the point is this. Does Drake Maye there's no time to throw. We went over the statistics. You don't want to get him hurt. You don't want to ruin the kid's confidence. When do you play him if you're going to play him this season, in your opinion?
As it stands now, and I don't know if there's any cavalry coming for the offensive line. Again, you're on your third left tackle, and the guy you're playing there is
who they going to get?
Rookie. Right. After Halloween would be my point. And I had pointed actually at that Jets game right before Halloween is, okay, this is an opponent you've seen before. You're at home. You'll have more time. You understand what's coming on Sunday. It's a good defense, but it's also a simple one, right? There's not a whole lot of disguising there. I would push that back even as it stands right now. And things could change. They could theoretically play lights out, have a very normal day in pass protection Thursday. I don't think it happens. But if this continues, yeah, I'm looking at November and beyond.
Okay, and you're confident that he'll be able to, I mean, you don't know, but you're confident he'll be able to handle that at that point? You're still not afraid he'll be under siege and it could screw him up?
The line is what it is. It's not going to change the rest of the season.
No, this season, but next season it could. I mean, theoretically, you could, get a top 3 pick, trade the pick out, and still get top 2 tackle in the draft.
I mean, we've all seen what we've seen, and you kind of opened things today, Andrew, by saying the Patriots can't pass the football. They either won't or can't, by design or by personnel or by protection. So if that doesn't change, and with Jawan Bentley now, if defensively, if they're in games even less than what we think they're going to be, I can see a path where he doesn't play this season. If things don't improve on the offensive line, defensively they get worse, and you don't have a chance of winning football games. Why are you playing him?
Brissett gets hurt. That's the only way. And by the way, that's a possibility. He's already been dinged a couple of times in the first 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, there was we talked about it yesterday. There were 2 times on Sunday I thought he wasn't getting up.
Right, but he did, and that's why I see her. I talked to Elliot Wolf a couple of weeks ago and said, look, what's it going to take? What will you need to see before Drake Maye comes in here? It's it's really a process and yada, yada, and we have Brissett in here. He's durable. We counted him to be durable. To the point of Drake maybe not playing this season. First of all, I was someone just over a week ago saying I thought the Patriots would be the last winless team in the league. So take my forecasting, predicting for what it's worth. Not much.
Stinks.
Number 2 is I've been in the minority where if Drake does not play this season, it is not some sort of disaster. You need to bring him into an environment that's not only just can protect him and not we need to help my poor baby. He's a tough kid. He can take a hit. He did it all of last year in North Carolina, but is conducive to evaluation. If you have pressure all the time, if you have receivers who don't get open, I don't know what we have. We were still asking the question going into last season, is Mac Jones a franchise quarterback? Can you win with Mac Jones? Because the situation was so screwed up around him, no one felt like you could properly evaluate him in 2022. I don't want that to happen with Drake, man. I want to know what it is, and if I can't this season, I'll wait till next year.
Pop Douglas is getting open. Go back and watch some more tape. Go back and look a little bit more there, Andrew.
This brings me to
don't be focusing in on the Belichick schemes.
Yeah, Callahan,
and,
do
look
your
at Keon
homework.
White getting blocked on the receiver in motion. Oh, that's brilliant. Go look at some Pop
you don't know
Douglas.
anything.
Go look at
Jesus.
some Pop Douglas tape before you go in here and start spouting.
I have a feeling
nonsense.
Perello be texting Hardy over here. Going, here's a little something to come at Callahan with.
Perillo has a little hobby of just texting me every time I say something that he thinks is either wrong or stupid. And, it happens
So that's
3
why you've
times
been
a
blowing
show.
up? Yeah.
3 times a show.
He's
That's
grumpy
why my
anyway.
phone won't
Yeah.
stop.
I would say to the actual point, like Pop Douglas is the only one of those receivers that to me is a legit gripe after watching the film, like you did, Hardy.
All 22, baby.
From Sunday, all 22.
Yeah.
Which brings me though to my 2 stats and a lie, which I went unbeaten last week.
Look at that.
So much fun. The guy comes prepared. This
Look
is good
at
stuff.
that. He's
Are we
got
ready?
notes and
We're
everything.
ready.
Check him out.
We're ready for 2
Okay.
stats.
Woo! I don't know if this is too bold for week 3. Some imaging with this. I don't know. Down the road, fellas in the back, I think that would be fun. Here we go. So last week, 3-0. 2 of these stats are obviously the truth. 1 is a lie.
Okay.
You need to guess.
Okay.
Number 1.
Yep.
The Patriots, through 2 games, have more pressures allowed than receptions.
Oh, I know the answer to that.
Oh,
Go
that's
ahead.
a yes.
Number
All right.
2, 10 players Sunday saw more offensive snaps than Pop Douglas. 10 players saw more offensive snaps than Pop Douglas. Number 3, Jacoby Brissett right now is a top 10 quarterback by QBR.
Okay, I am going to not look at anything on the internet. Do you want my guess, fellas, or do you want to
can't
go?
look at the internet.
We'll go
That's
around. I'll go
cheating.
first. I'll even go first. I think B is the lie.
I
think
agree.
Pop Douglas, that one's the lie.
Because Callahan said earlier that they were in this 3 receiver set the majority
Oh, yeah.
of the time.
And Douglas was out there in the slot. Jacoby Brissett, although he's not throwing the ball much, is completing a lot of them. He's not turning the ball over, so I think his QBR is just fine enough to be in the top 10. So the Pop Douglas stat is a lie.
I agree, but QBR is the measure of a man. Go ahead.
I'd say number 3 is the lie.
You guys stink. I'm unbeaten again. It was number 1.
What?
The Patriots have more catches than they do pressure.
By how many?
5 or 6. The number for pressures is 28. The catches here is just all Jacoby Brissett completions. I'm 6-0 to start this. I love this segment. I made this segment. Do you want to talk about the other 2 stats, though?
Go ahead, quickly.
So, Demario Douglas, you mentioned played 3 receivers. They're still rotating. He played just over half of the snaps on Sunday. That was it. So he's behind Stevenson. He's behind all 5 offensive linemen. The quarterback, Hunter Henry.
I thought that was a stat because of what you said about him earlier and how you can, improve in his usage starting on Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I thought that was a stat.
Well done, Hardy.
Yeah.
This is like the end of Scooby-Doo.
And Callahan would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you stupid
Well, he did
kids.
get away with it. We're like a dumb mystery machine.
What about Brissett's quarterback rating?
So QBR, and this is not to be like QBR versus passer rating, is ESPN's version of that. Like, let's update this stat that everyone cites in passer rating. Include scrambles, include fumbles, include game situation, an actual measure of a man who plays quarterback, Fred. So what they're accounting for is all the times that he does scramble, all the times that he's not fumbling the ball or taking sacks, which a lot of other quarterbacks are doing. That right now is the power of being Jacoby Brissett, not getting in the way, not screwing things up, and running a little bit more than you thought. That's got him just barely. He's number 10 in the top 10 of QBR.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's should be complaining about Jacoby Brissett. I mean, he's
doing exactly what they brought him here to do,
basically
not
a
turn
scarecrow.
the ball over. Yeah,
he's essentially just a scarecrow. I mean, they're like using him to protect someone else. Like he's standing in the field,
that's right,
taking all the punishment.
Here,
while
we need you to kill time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you're here.
And he goes, all right, pay me, and I'll kill time for you. Yep. I'll do what you want, but you got to pay me. All right, Andrew Callahan, as always, embarrassing us with his games and taking control. You can read him and do so in the Boston Herald. Thank you, Andrew, so much for coming in. We'll be back in just a moment.
the Patriots.
Into the end zone.
Play here.
Touchdown for the Patriots.
WBZ FM and HD Boston 98.5, the Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots will hold their only true practice of the week today as they get ready for a Thursday night road matchup with the Jets. This means, of course, Jonathan Jones has to deal with Aaron Rodgers in prime time.
It's on autopilot per se. He's a veteran quarterback. He knows what he's looking at over and over. I think it'll come down to us just making plays. He's going to put the ball in there. He's going to give his guys chances, and it'll come down to us making plays.
Patriots are also going to be without defensive captain Jawan Bentley. He was injured last weekend against Seattle and is now expected to miss the rest of the season with a torn pectoral muscle. Patriots have also signed offensive lineman Michael Jordan to the 53-man roster from the practice squad. Last night, Atlanta got a touchdown pass from Kirk Cousins to Drake London with just over 30 seconds left, and the Falcons upset the Eagles in Philadelphia 22-21. Patriots will be in San Francisco a week from Sunday, and now on top of placing Christian McCaffrey on injured reserve last week, the 49ers announced yesterday Deebo Samuel strained a calf muscle last weekend, and he is out a couple of games. Miami won't place Tua Tagovailoa on injured reserve despite his latest concussion. Carolina has benched former overall #1 draft pick and starting quarterback Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton, and the Red Sox had last night off. They will visit Tampa Bay this evening. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Dr. Matthew Lopresti and Leonard Hair Transplant Associates, the hair doctor of Charlie McAvoy. Call 1-800-GET-HAIR for your free virtual or in-person hair loss consultation. I'm John Wallach at Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9:30.
No matter where you go, you're always connected to Boston sports with the 98.5 The Sports Hub app. Download it wherever you get your apps today. Hey, if your alarm clock sounds like this is the show for you. Toucher and Hardy, the Sports Hub.
Let's go. Here we go. Let's go. Special edition. Co-founder is with us, Coach. We got the co-founder of this program, Tom Brady. Tommy, how you doing, pal?
I prefer to be called the original.
Tommy, let me reset here, then you can ask Bill a question.
Yeah, Jim, you're not doing today, by the way, just so you know.
Do I have to?
Good. 98.5 The Sports Hub. We are Toucher and Hardy.
How many years has this been on the air?
It's obviously they pay and get their own sponsors.
Of course.
No, it's obvious because Jim Gray stumbles through awkward reads, and it's not like the other shows that are on. I think it's like bought airtime. I really do. It's Republica. He's dancing.
This is what Audrey is dancing to on top of the neon sign in Vegas Vacation. The Audrey dance.
You know my story. Yeah. My friend banged her.
I didn't know this.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who had sex with the Audrey from Vegas Vacation.
Huh.
If I'm not mistaken, she's from Illinois. Check that facts. But he was not one to lie. I mean, he was married when he told me it. I don't know why he would lie about it. There's a guy I used to work with in radio. Not here.
Marisol Nichols.
Yeah. Does it say where she's from? I got to imagine there's a big Wikipedia page about her.
There is. Ha, ha, ha. She's from Chicago.
Illinois. See? Boom. Yep.
She was also in Scream 2. Can't Hardly Wait. Oh, in Bowfinger.
How old is she?
She is 50 years old.
Tracks. My friend's probably 54.
Yeah, she'll be 51 in November. Happy birthday. Happy early birthday, Marisol Nichols.
And you got your present so many years ago from the only guy that we both know. All right. We're brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. That was Jim Gray's Let's Go. Of course, we remember Jim Gray.
Let's go. Here we go. Let's go.
Do you have the thing where I yelled at him?
Oh, I know Tom.
Right.
Oprah knows Tom. Stedman knows Tom. Oprah knows my wife. We're all friends. So why not have a dinner? So that's what that was.
Well, you're not yelling at him there, did you?
Oh, Jesus, Jim. Just go. Do whatever you have to do. Bye. Here's the headline.
Good luck to you.
Just that you don't understand how strange he is. He's so strange. And again, what happened, Fred? You dick. What did you do? I asked him why Oprah Winfrey did a thing on Tom Brady. Who knew that they were like friends? No one knew. This was before they had done any of this stuff together. And she's interviewing him in like Fiji. There's Giselle and Tom Brady, and all of a sudden Jim Gray's in it.
There he is standing in the wings with headphones on watching.
Yeah, like he has nothing. He's not ever interviewed or ever on screen other than a peripheral shot. He's in the background. And I remember when I saw it, I said, this is very strange. Why the hell is Jim Gray there? Like, I haven't seen Jim Gray for a decade. Why is he hanging out with Tom Brady? And when I asked him, he acted like I was insane, and you have to know the way he was looking at me. He was looking at me like he wanted to beat me up, which is asinine.
Okay, and then don't forget the other part of the story. We were at the Super Bowl. Jerry Rice and Hardy, I don't know if you saw this. Jerry Rice was standing there waiting to come on the air with us. He sat down and said, "What the hell? What the F is the deal with that guy?"
Yeah.
Jerry Rice. And then
oh,
Jesus, Jim, just go. Do whatever you have to do. Bye. Here's the headline.
Good luck to you. No, good luck to you. And then he tried to get us fired. He started calling everyone and their uncle. He called our old boss, and then they called his brother because he's a big radio hotshot too. And then he just like everywhere trying to get me fired. And then I remember I'm walking through the Hartsfield Airport in Atlanta, like negotiating with the program director, and I don't blame him. But dude, you got to podcast that. Like, I don't know if I should. I'm like, you got to put it up. Oh, yeah. Put it up. I'm not going to fight the guy about it. Like, argue with him. And then he finally acquiesced. But Jim Gray was putting up like enough of a stink that they were concerned about putting the podcast up. And I'm like, what's he going to do? Because he was actively trying to get us fired. And, no, he wasn't trying to get you fired. Yes, he was. He was actively calling people. Westwood One people, Mike Thomas, our old boss, actively calling them with the intention of getting us removed from the air, which is such narcissism that it's almost insane.
Do I have to?
Yes. All right. So anyway, this abortion is on the air over and over again, and when I'm coming into work. And here is what Jim Gray, he had I don't even know what clip this is, but Hardy does. This is
the Belichick and Brady are both on the Let's Go podcast.
Let's go. Hey, we're back, everybody. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They're both on, and they have a little chin wag to get things going, but things are starting to get away from Jim, so he's gonna hold on a second, guys. Let's get down to business here, and we're gonna reset, I believe is what Jim says here.
So in theory, you've just heard me for 3 hours and 10 minutes. And the reason I say me is because I'm the one who got in the argument with Jim. So you're probably thinking, well, Jim Gray's a great broadcaster. He's way better than you. All right.
Tom Brady comes on and says nothing, but Belichick is the one who is.
Yeah, so he's got Brady and Belichick. Here we go. This is big. They're talking. Let's see how Jim handles this.
Hey, we're back, everybody. Here we go.
I have not heard this. Let's see. I'm open to admitting I'm wrong.
Brady might be done here. He's on for about 90 seconds.
Yeah. Brady pops in and out. All right, here we go.
Let's go. Here we go. Let's go. Special edition. Co-founder is with us, Coach. We got the co-founder of this program, Tom Brady. Tommy, how you doing, pal?
Oh, with the Tommy. Tommy, how you doing, pal? Would you call Tom Brady Tommy, even if you were friends with him? Tommy.
I don't know, Freddie. Johnny.
Yeah, it's just like, what are you doing?
So bad.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Okay, you're friends. Great. Super. Yes, we know that's why I'm hearing your voice. It's entirely based on your friendship with Tom Brady. It's understood, Jim. Listen to you talk. I know it's not you. I wouldn't be hearing your voice. You've suckled on to the teat of Tom Brady, and he's carrying you around. You're a barnacle.
Of this program, Tom Brady. Tommy, how you doing, pal?
I prefer to be called the original.
Tommy, let me reset here, then you can ask Bill a question.
Yeah, Jim, you're not doing today, by the way, just so you know.
Do I have to?
No, you don't, actually.
Being a good interviewer means listening. Jim Gray, along with the great Bill Belichick.
Oh, my God. And they're friends. Yeah. They're like out in Montana together, and this is the back and forth that they have, this stilted, awkward back and forth.
No, it's a very relaxed rapport. You can tell they're very close.
Yes, if it was two robots from 1984 in a short circuit situation, yes, I would believe it.
Tom, you are my best friend.
Yes, if two short circuit robots went and met each other, this is how it would sound.
I have many friends.
Well, I know Tom.
Right.
Oprah knows Tom. Stedman knows Tom. Oprah knows my wife. We're all friends. So why not have a dinner?
That's
what
pretty,
that was.
That's pretty close. Tom, you can ask Bill a question now.
Yeah, it's
very, very close.
Multi-millionaires in broadcasting, these two. And then in comes the caboose of another guy who sucks at it too. All right, here we go.
Jim Gray, along with the great Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. We're here on Let's Go, brought to you by Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse. Fire away, Tommy.
Why do you think I think that it might be paid programming? The shoehorning in of Del Frisco's? So natural, Jim. It sounds like just like every other show. And it sounds live. And that's what really the master is.
They talk about a lot about Del Frisco's. And who wouldn't? I love Del Frisco's, but there are other properties and, how they're all dining there now. The Belichicks and the Bradys and the Grays.
Yeah, he says about giving them gift cards.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's nothing. Del Frisco, great. Everyone likes Del Frisco's. Enjoy a steak there.
Love it.
The point is the shoehorning, the awkward shoehorning of it is not good. It's not like when I say FanDuel, make every moment more with FanDuel. That is a seamless transition.
Did you even say it just now?
You know what's going to remember? Your subconscious when you're gambling tonight.
That's right.
Jim Gray, along with the great Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. We're here on Let's Go, brought to you by Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse. Fire away, Tommy.
I hope my dad's still getting free Del Frisco's cards like he used to.
He is. Mastro's, Morton's, absolutely.
And that's what Del Frisco's wants, genius, is you to mention two other steakhouses, you scum. Del Frisco's, pull your advertising from this. He just gave out two competitor names. He just gave out two names of competitors right during your advertisement. Pull. Del Frisco's, come here. I won't make that mistake. All the other steakhouses are dead to me, Del Frisco's, if you come advertise.
I hope my dad's still getting free Del Frisco's cards like he used to.
He is. Mastro's, Morton's, absolutely. And Coach Belichick's going in there now, so we got the Brady's, the Belichick's, and the whole deal.
Go out there and hold people accountable and disciplined, and that's what I want to see. Holy cow, loud here.
Yeah, that's the Let's Go podcast.
We're on fire here.
Obviously, we edited, but they go from the Del Frisco's, and now this is the podcast. By the way, you think you could go redo it, but I have a feeling Brady wouldn't be up for that. If he said, "Oh, we have to do this over."
No,
I'm good.
My Ring app is going off in the background. Just leave it in.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
Like if you think I'm doubling back to do this, Jimmy Gray, you got another thing coming. I mean, you've signed NDAs.
Go out there and hold people accountable and disciplined, and that's what I want to see. Holy cow, loud here.
All right. Love you, buddy. Have a safe trip.
Enjoy. Have a great time, guys. I'll talk to you next month.
Bill, I've spent 20 years talking to Tommy. 20.
Oh, my God.
I love you.
Maybe we can
call me.
Maybe we can be friends, too.
Return my text.
I've spent 20 years talking to Tommy. And, because I call him Tommy.
All right. Love you, buddy. Have a safe trip.
Enjoy. Have a great time, guys. I'll talk to you next month.
Bill, I've spent 20 years talking to Tommy, 25 years talking to Tommy. It's always special. He's just got a unique, interesting appeal that's always, always excited and always engaged.
Oh, my God. What are you doing? Like, he's just sucks so bad. He sucks at talking. I can't tell you the frustration when I turn on the radio and his voice is on it. It's just so bad. But he's so bad at it. It's just all of them are so bad.
He's got to fill time, and he's probably got a long list of things he's not allowed to talk about. So he has to fill it with, I've talked to Tom for a long time, and he's always talking when we talk. He talks about things, and when he says them, he uses words. And it's just no one uses the words like Tommy. I love him.
It's almost like he's got some kind of a rope on me, and he's just pulling it every time that man talks. He's pulling me into his web. You know what I'm saying, Bill? Huh? Yeah? Tommy?
I love you.
I love you, Tommy. Tommy, be safe on your travels.
If you're still listening, I love you.
Tommy, be safe.
Oh, hey, we're back, everybody. Here we go.
Bill, I call him Tommy. Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy. Let's go to Jimmy in New Hampshire. Jimmy, go ahead, sir. Hello, Jimmy.
You can tell in Jim's voice when he says, "Love you, Tommy," that he's just so badly hoping to hear it back, and he's never heard it back. and it's just this continuous, it kills him every time that Tom signs off without saying it back.
That is a great point. Like, if you say I love you to someone, it's with the hope of them saying I love you back.
Yeah.
Bill, I've spent 20 years talking to Tommy.
All those trips to Montana, all those trips to the paradise watching Tommy throw footballs on the beach.
Jack Nicholson, the actor.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Love you, buddy. Have a safe trip.
Enjoy. Have a great time, guys. I'll talk to you next month.
Bill, I've spent.
Oh, boy. That is really like a
call.
Like, Adam is a big I love you guy.
Love you, Fred.
Love you too, buddy. See, that's what we'll say. Like, I don't initiate it. He does. But I don't have a problem saying it. And so you got to say it back. It's brotherly love.
Interesting.
Like, my son has like a thing like I love you, and I always say it back. You got to say it back. If it's unrequited if it's thrown out there without being said back. Oh, I'm sorry.
Your son says it to you first?
He says it like it's almost like it's a habit now of saying it at the end of conversations on the phone.
Oh, that's nice.
It is nice, but yeah. So like, I don't think to say it. He says it, but it could be as simple as like, "Hey, I'm here," and it'll be okay. Love you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, it's not even like he's looking at me with like adoring eyes, saying "I love you."
Do you say it to your mother because you talked to your mom on the phone a lot?
I didn't forever, and now I do when I'm leaving town.
Oh.
Like when I'm leaving them, I'll hug them and make sure I say I love you, because who knows? It could be the last time. And that's really why I do it.
No, you're doing better now. I don't think it'd be the last time.
Pretty still.
You think I look good?
Yeah, good.
You think I'm doing all right? All right. Here we go.
Email segment.
The B-Real says, does Milo say I love you to those dang birds? He does not.
Why don't you come up with one, Wallach? If you're pushing us to get into the segment here, why don't you read an email?
Okay. This one is addressed to all of us from Sean. If they build a new arena for the Celtics, I would imagine all those restaurants would close all around the Garden. Most have, and that was with a guaranteed 80-plus games a year. If they moved, there would only be like 40. I don't think any of them would make it. This is the discussion of a new owner potentially coming in and seeing that the Celtics don't own the building they play in and would want to move them to a new building.
There's probably some businesses around the Garden that would like that none too much.
No, yeah, you're missing out on, 41 dates a year.
Yep. Sometimes more with playoffs.
Yeah, with 17,000 plus coming into town. Yes, I would imagine that would be a big knock. And I wonder if it would also, I wonder how many people like have apartments in that area specifically because of the draw of like the Celtics. And I don't think that's an asinine point to make. I think that you could live anywhere in the city of Boston, that perhaps they built that area up so much on the backs of those sports franchises. And I don't think that's dumb. It sounds dumb coming out of my mouth, but the more I think about it, I don't think it's dumb. I think someone might like the cachet of going like, yeah, I can just walk like, a block down and go see the Celtics play.
I can't think of where they would build an arena for the Celtics.
This is the age-old question when they wanted a new Fenway Park a long time ago. Where would they build it? Oh, there's a parcel of land on the waterfront, and all of a sudden prices went through the roof. Well, we can't afford that parcel.
That's why people that's why Atlanta filled up, because Atlanta wasn't around till like 1900. When you were founded in 1600.
Yeah.
Then
plots of land tend to get taken.
Yeah, like everything's already built. You just can go up at this point, and God help, you can't put an arena in there. So if they put it, you do not want a suburban arena. Hardy and I have been through that. You do not want that. It's one thing for a Patriots game, and it's
Palace at Auburn Hills was how far away?
It was real far from the city, like way further than I lived from the city. So like it wasn't like I lived on 13 Mile Road, which is obviously 13 miles from the end of Detroit. So 13 miles, you went from 13 Mile Road, you would hit the Detroit River.
Yeah, and 8 Mile is
And
the
8 Mile is
border.
the beginning of the Detroit. So I lived 5 miles from Detroit. It's 13-mile road. So it's a grid system. And Auburn Hills, Hardy, was what? A half an hour from there?
Well,
west?
It started at 21 Mile Road. I think Square Lake is where, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's far enough away from the city to where it felt like it really wasn't Detroit's team.
Yeah, it's not good. It's one thing for football, and I don't like where Foxborough is. I don't think anyone is. It's on a country road essentially. I mean, it is. That's not a road meant for that kind of traffic. It's a real pain in the ass. But it's a special event. It's 8 times a year. Here we go. 8, 9 times a year. You got season tickets. You got a tailgate and everything. Going out to a basketball game, it's with the 7:30 tip-off. You don't want to be fighting suburban traffic.
And just
believe
like
me.
anywhere downtown, the financial district and the seaport and everything around the north end. I mean, we were down there a couple of weekends ago for the feast, and I hadn't been down in the north end in a while. But another event I was down there for, like closer over to Leader Bank, the stuff that's built up around there, it's unbelievable.
Maybe Brighton, where they've been doing all that building.
Oh.
And they got that train stop put in.
Harvard bought all that land. All that land in Alston, Brighton.
And they've given us so many Simpsons writers.
Well, they've
you ever see the picture of Conan O'Brien with the Simpsons writers?
I have.
And you're like, ugh.
I have.
That's why it's not funny.
RC wants to know if we can play some of the spots or some of the commercials from the Twister radio station because he wants to know what those sound like. I'm very curious which companies are advertising with them. We'll have some more radio air checks as Fred tries to get into the consulting business here at some point. But yeah, maybe we can find a few commercials and give those advertisers some extra play up here in Boston.
They play Reba. This is Mitchell. How does one send something to the show if I send you guys a bag of bird seeds? Would you throw a handful at John whenever he does or says something stupid? Mitch, yes. We're on Main Street in Waltham. You can find us, just Google it, and you can send things there.
1075 Main Street.
Bill
Thomas, I prefer Tommy. Toms get a bad rap. Peeping Tom, Uncle, yeah, there's bad stuff. So I wouldn't let Jim call me Tommy, though, just because the way he talks. Tommy. Yeah. I have a couple of friends named Tom, and they're almost all Tommies at some point.
Yes.
Not Tom Morgan, though.
No.
T-Bone is definitely not
Tommy
a
doesn't fit him, no.
He's a Tom.
You were fascinated with T-Bone.
Who isn't?
I don't know anything about him except he was very angry that I didn't know his name when I didn't know it.
Touch him. Touch his shoulders.
He don't like that?
No, he doesn't mind it, but he's sculpted.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a large guy. You said he's got this some even unheard of strength.
Oh yeah. So a few Christmases ago, last minute gift. I'm like, I really want like some new thing for the basement for the kids to play with, air hockey or a pool table, and it was literally Christmas Eve. I'm thinking we just need like one more thing, and I found on Facebook Marketplace a 3-in-1 game table. The kids were little. It was like a smaller sized air hockey, but it flipped over to a pool table.
Mm-hmm.
It had a ping pong table. It was great, but I needed to pick it up that day, so I said, T-Bone, I'm like, hey, would you help me load this thing? It's probably going to be a bit of an issue. He said, sure. So we went over to this guy's place in Dorchester, and while I was negotiating the last part of the deal, T-Bone lifted up, I would say 90% of the weight of this thing was in the slate pool table, which flipped over to the air hockey, which had the motor in it, and lifted it himself and carried it out through the sliding door and put it in the back of my truck.
Oh, my God.
What did you get him for that? He went out on Christmas Eve?
No, he was on his way home. It was in Dorchester. It was when we were still over in Dorchester. So all he had to do was, take a 5-minute detour from where he was going. But I just needed...
I feel like he was so alone on Christmas Eve.
Oh, he wasn't. He was fine.
You were working Christmas Eve?
Christmas Eve day, I think we all worked that day. For whatever, the calendar just worked that way that year. Not you.
Yeah, I guess I guess I like Jesus.
And December 10th, we'll say goodbye to you until the new year.
Yeah, and I'll be praying and honoring the holiday Because it's not the claws, my friend. He's the reason for the season.
Santa.
No, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Book suggestion from Jeff. Fred, I read Hepatitis Bathtub, the No Effects oral biography, which I suggest. People say The Dirt, which is great. Hepatitis Bathtub is way, way, way more outrageous. You were right. It was wild. I don't often finish books after I start them, but I crushed through that one. So I'm wondering if you have any other suggestions for me. I like autobiographies like that, but I'm also open to other genres too. Love the show. Tell the Bird and Hardy they are great too. I'm also the guy who got arrested for the same thing Scheffler did. Ha ha. 2, I'll give you. 1 is, I guess Jim Murray was talking about this, but Sam Tallent's, he's a comedian, Sam Tallent's, his book Running the Light is a fictional story of a comedian, but it has details in it that are only, every listener that's read it has loved it. Running the Light by Sam Tallent. Did you read that, Hardy?
Nope.
Okay. And the other one is Please Kill Me by Legs McNeil. That's an oral history of the punk scene in New York City from about the Velvet Underground till about 1980. And it's Iggy Pop just taking handfuls of whatever anyone handed him, being naked and walking around Max's Kansas City. It's a whole situation. Anyone could put anything anywhere with Iggy Pop. He did not care. He did not draw a line.
I'll give you
free.
I'll give you 2. One of which was a book that was sent to Jim Murray, and I said, "Hey, you're going to read this?" He goes, "No, you can read it first." And I took it, and the author is Paul Tremblay, who is also a local guy, but the book is called Cabin at the End of the World.
Yeah, you talked about that. Yep.
I mean, disturbing horror novel. But then I started getting into more Paul Tremblay stuff, and there's another book he wrote called Head Full of Ghosts, which it's one of these books that has no right being as scary as it is. And then he's got a new one out, which you would dig, Fred. It's called Horror Movie, and it's kind of like they're going to reboot this online cult classic horror movie that these kids made like in high school, but it never fully got done, and there were some incidents in the filming. So now this book is about them trying to reboot it and restart it. Really good.
I've never read a horror novel, nor do I like horror movies.
These are not your typical horror books that Paul Tremblay
are they ghosts or goblins or both?
I would say neither. There are neither ghosts nor goblins.
Is there a werewolf or some kind of boogeyman?
Well, vampires.
Oh, no.
There's always vampires.
Well, that's the adult films that I tend to frequent are vampires. All right, you can email John at JON at 985thesportshub.com, Hardy at 985thesportshub.com, Toucher at 985thesportshub.com, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Toucher and Hardy. And you can follow me on Instagram at Fred Toucher. And then if you follow me. Untold Riches, I'm told. And you can follow at Hardy985 on Twitter and on Instagram. All right, we'll be back with the stack in just a moment.
Sports Hub headlines.
Patriots will visit the Jets this coming Thursday night. Both teams stand at 1-1 on the season. Patriots are going to be without linebacker.
Toucher and Hardy on the Sports Hub. We know what you're thinking. What could I possibly have missed from the show? It's time for The Stack on Toucher and Hardy.
Hey, we're Toucher and Hardy, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel. This just came across my phone. Rolling Stone Magazine's greatest guitarists of all time. They do this from time to time. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
Jan Wenner no longer in control of the magazine because he said that he preferred interviewing white artists when he was doing it. And so his magazine kicked him out. But I would say, wouldn't it be more like you wouldn't buy the magazine than you would fire the guy that started the magazine because it's his magazine? Do you understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like if the guy whose magazine it is says something controversial about the past of the magazine, which is in his mind fact, wouldn't you then just pull out of that magazine instead of firing the guy that owns the magazine? It's his magazine.
I don't want the magazine now.
Right.
You can't disassociate yourself from what he may have done if you find it that offensive.
And also,
don't buy it.
Yeah, and if it's his magazine, then it's his magazine. He can do whatever he wants with it. You're as a consumer, don't buy it and don't advertise in it. That's the way that you would combat that. I always find it odd when people are like kicked out of their own thing. Like they're kicked out of their own, like something that they created, and not like a show or something like that. I mean like a band.
I was thinking the same thing you were. I was thinking the exact same thing you were.
I mean, like if you founded a band, and it's like your band, it's even more. It's more like a business, I guess. If you found a business and you set up dumb rules, but they're your rules.
It feels
like I did it.
Like it feels like Steve Perry got kicked out of Journey. And I don't know the whole story behind it, but how do you kick Steve Perry out of Journey?
He wasn't the original singer, so that's how.
But he's the singer you think of when you think of Journey.
Not if there's a guy who sounds just like him. Apparently, the Neil Schon and the other guy that are the original members, no fans of each other.
Jonathan Cain?
Yes, no fans of each other. They communicate only through lawyers, and they tour.
Oh, man.
Yes, indeed. All right, would you care to guess who's number one on the list of Rolling Stone greatest guitarists?
Eddie Van Halen.
Jimi Hendrix.
You are correct. You'll never guess.
We said two different names.
Well, Jimi Hendrix.
Okay.
You're the person who said the last one.
Okay.
Would anyone care to guess number two? It's very precious.
C.C. DeVille.
No, C.C. DeVille is not on the list. He of Poison. No, nor is Mike Tramp on their greatest vocalist from White Lion.
Is it Robert Johnson?
Oh.
More or less precious than that?
Less, but I will tell you this.
Jack White.
Robert Johnson is 16th.
Of course.
I will tell you this. Sister Rosetta Tharpe is sixth.
Oh, okay.
Oh boy.
I don't know from Sister Rosetta Tharpe. She might very well be the sixth greatest guitarist ever.
Right, exactly. But I think not. When people are thinking about it. But this guy is very famous, but he's old if he's still alive. He had a very gross video that was
Chuck
released.
Berry.
Chuck Berry.
Oh.
Number 3, he's a pedophile, but no one seemed to care.
Gary Glitter.
Jimmy Page. I mean, technically. I mean, he was with underage women, and no one really cares.
Yeah.
And then 4 is obvious.
Eddie Van Halen?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 is an obvious name, but you're not going to think of it off the top of your head because he was never like a major star.
Brian May of Queen?
That's a really good guess. And Brian May is not in the top 25,
Really?
which is really odd. But I will tell you this, is that Mother Mabel Carter is.
Okay. I don't know. Who's 5?
5 is, of course, Jeff Beck.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
He's one of those guys that he's the guitar player's guitar player, you know?
Here's 2 names I want to know. Where is Pete Townsend and where is Chet Atkins?
All right, Pete Townsend.
If Pete Townsend's not top 20.
Oh, it's got to be top 20.
I don't know what we're doing.
Where's the Beatles? We need George Harrison.
Pete, he's not in the top 50.
So already I like this list.
That's just stupid. I mean,
I already like this. Well, you know as well as I do.
George Harrison's 31st.
Okay. When people insist upon putting him or John Lennon in there.
How about Johnny Greenwood, Ed O'Brien? Ugh. You know they put Vernon Reid from Living Colour in here at number 40.
We had a long.
I love the solo from the hit
Cult of Personality.
Cult of Personality is
Yeah.
my favorite guitar solo
Amazing.
of all time.
And
So
we had
do you know-
Michael Holly in here, and we were discussing that.
Michael Holly was hanging out with Living Color to the point where now they're friends. This
Yeah.
was not long ago.
So he was at an Applebee's with a stage.
No, he went
Vernon Reed, self-taught, much like Eddie Van Halen.
went to a show with a buddy of his who I guess knew somebody in the band, and next thing you know, they were inviting him to just like hang out with them on the bus, and then they had dinner together, and like so yeah.
right.
Corey Glover from In Living Color was in what movie?
I don't know.
Oh.
Corey Glover from In Living Color before they got
Point
famous.
Break, because he already had the wetsuit.
That's
Platoon.
fantastic. Body glove.
You remember it? He was in Platoon.
Oh, okay.
He
One
was
question about the list.
Where's Chet Atkins?
Where's David
not on
Gilmour?
Well, this is a stupid list.
Where's David Gilmour?
David, I've moved on, but if we are still doing this, I'll just give you the. All right, you got the top 5. Sister Rosetta Thorpe is 6. Okay. Nile Rodgers, who I was unaware played guitar, from he's the big producer from the funk band.
Yeah.
B.B. King is 8th.
Oh, okay.
I dare you to go sit through a B.B. King concert when he was alive, if he's dead.
I like the videos I see of B.B. King and like him and Jerry Reed like playing back and forth, because Jerry Reed, Roy Clark, some of those like Chet Atkins, bet you probably better than both those guys. Like that era, those guys would play with anybody, whether it was B.B. King or whatever. We're all just playing guitar, man, and they all learn from each other.
It's not all about shredding, because number
No.
9 is Joni Mitchell, the great Joni Mitchell, her fret work.
What?
What about
Yes.
Mark Knopfler? Did he make the top 10?
Oh, yeah.
He should be in the top
he should be.
25.
No, he's not in the top 10.
Well, this is a stupid,
He's not in the top
ridiculous
25.
list.
Very flawed
Suspect.
list.
He is Mark Knopfler is not in the top 50 from what I
It's
see.
fantastic.
He
Wow.
is not.
Wow.
He was a big finger picker. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Carlos Santana is 11th. Jimmy Nolan, who I don't even know, but he might be famous, is at 12. Tony Iommi, of course, who had his finger cut off in a factory accident and still was able to manage. If you want to talk about overcoming something and becoming great,
Right or left
Tony
hand?
Iommi on his left hand, the one he works, if he's right-handed, it's his left hand. The one that he works, he had to create a finger, which is like a fake finger, which is how he got that evil sound, he says.
That sounds like cheating. It's like you're wearing a slide.
Well, I think it's inspirational, but I guess we're from different sides of the fence. Prince is at 14.
Okay, I like that
Keith
call.
Richards is at 15 because, of
I like
course.
that.
Well, yeah. Robert Johnson is at 16. Mother Mabel Carter at 17th. Tom Morello is at 18th.
Innovative. He's an innovator.
Freddie King is at 19th. Stevie Ray Vaughan at 20th. Randy Rhoads.
All right.
Albert King, Hetfield, and Hammett. James Burton, who I don't know who that is. Ooh, John Frusciante at 25.
Oh, boy.
I have a listener's
Heroin has killed so many of them. Go ahead.
A listener's very upset. Alex Lifeson's name has not been mentioned.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they're not going to put him on.
I went down a rabbit hole last night, and Chad Smith from
Brian
Red
May's at 33, by the way.
Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers was in one of these videos, and it's the videos where so-and-so hears so-and-so for the first time. And it was Chad Smith listening to 30 Seconds to Mars, the song The Kill, right? Without a drum track. And like, listen to the song all the way through, and then, play the drums how you think it would be. Chad Smith listens to it for 10 seconds and then plays drums for the rest of that song better than the 30 Seconds to Mars version. And then there's a woman from the Mars Volta, I think, who listens to Rush Limelight for the first time. She knows who Rush is, but she's never heard the song. Mm-hmm. So trying to play that song after hearing it without the drums, like the odd meters and stuff, and the odd, time changes and stuff, killed it. Yeah. I go down those rabbit holes and waste hours.
Okay, I made mistakes here because I don't have my contact lens in my left eye, which is my worst eye. Pete Townsend is 37th. Chet Atkins is 39th.
Okay, well, at least they're in the top.
I apologize to everyone. Johnny Ramone is at 44th because that's a little fun.
All right.
St. Vincent is at 26th.
Okay.
David Gilmour is at 28th, John.
Okay.
If you must know.
All downstrokes, Johnny Ramone, another innovator.
And Brian May is 33rd. I will tell you, Johnny Ramone plays guitar about as well as any of us if you handed us a guitar.
Punk rock, baby.
Yeah.
He did what he had to do.
He did what he had to do. He had to be a lunatic that made everyone's lives miserable. Go ahead.
Much like Robert Kennedy did what he had to do some years ago. Now it's coming back to bite him.
I'm going to tell you something that nobody knows. This week, I received, right after I endorsed President Trump, I received a letter from the National Marine Fisheries Institute saying that they were investigating me for collecting a whale specimen.
Hold on.
He also has thrown a dead cub in Central Park, he's admitted to. A lot of things, odd things. You usually assume an affair, a liaison with a prostitute.
Sure.
Drugs.
Which he did. A lot.
But he's he's on the other side of that.
Yeah.
But the thing is that's what you usually expect. A lot of things with exotic animals. He had has a real keen eye for the exotic pet.
Collecting a whale specimen 20 years ago. It's 15 years past the statute of limitation, but they're opening an investigation. And this is all about the weaponization of our government against political opponents of the party in power. And it's dangerous for our democracy, as my father understood, and every American, whether you're Democrat or Republican.
How would you know what your father understood? I mean, you didn't know your dad.
Yeah, I don't know that your endorsement was going to push either party's candidate over the top in this. And it does seem strange that they would bring about this investigation so many years later. But to say that it's politically motivated, maybe someone's just hearing about the bear thing for the first time. Like, what other shenanigans has he gotten up to?
Yeah.
And what does it mean to collect a whale specimen?
Again, if you don't want people digging into your past, my suggestion would be don't run for president. Because that's kind of vetting is part of the process. And it doesn't even matter. I mean, like you could have stuff in your past. You could still be president, and everyone's made mistakes. But collecting a whale specimen, I wonder what that means, because that sounds like a very brave endeavor.
In a 2012 Town and Country article,
2112,
Kennedy's daughter, Kik Kennedy, told an anecdote about her father's handling of a dead whale that washed up on a Massachusetts beach.
Oh, he loves the dead stuff.
Robert Kennedy used a chainsaw to cut off the head of the whale and strapped it to the roof of his minivan. You know what? Politically motivated or not, you go ahead and investigate that one a little bit.
Would you be concerned if you found out that your child had taken a dead bear cub and thrown it in a park and then felt the compulsion to saw off a dead whale's head? Would you not be like a little concerned about their likelihood of being a killer? What do you think he's done with a human corpse? I mean, if your compulsion is to find dead stuff and start playing around with it, that's what Dahmer did. I'm not kidding. And I
think it's one of the red flags.
I don't think that's behavior and I know he probably wanted to mount the whale thing and thought it was cool and everything. I get it. And if it was a one-off thing, okay. But that's two dead things he was playing around with. That's kind of weird, man. He's not a hunter. If he hunted stuff, even then I would understand. But just picking up dead stuff and playing around with it, putting it in your car and screwing around.
Strapping a whale head to the top of your minivan?
Shouldn't you be revolted by dead things? Shouldn't they if you stumble upon a large thing that's dead,
it doesn't bother. It doesn't bother, and that should bother everyone else.
Yeah,
it's a special kind of crazy.
You should be repulsed by it, and realize the fragility of life. Or if you've killed the beast, think, oh look, I'm going to use every bit of this. I sacrificed this to the spirits above. But just to find dead stuff and start playing around with it is weird. I wonder if he walks around the south side of Chicago and just sees what he can find. And he's got that Kennedy money out. He can buy himself into a morgue, my friend. Start playing around with the brains. You know what I'm saying? All right, that'll do it for us. All of you have a great day. Bye.